Yes, that's right.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Game Society podcast for December 2017. We have a very special episode. For the most part, we're just going to be talking about Star Wars, but we have a few other subjects. I'm Adam Korlick, and I'm joined by, of course, Aaron Yonda, Emery G. Hunger, and as well as two special guests, John Mangrum and Alden Fisher. Hey everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Like I said, we're just going to do a couple of power round subjects real quick, and then we're going to move on to the real meat and potatoes. So, other than the power round subjects, if you haven't seen Star Wars Last Jedi, you probably have no real reason to be here, so I apologize in advance. But the first subject is brought to us by a new Patreon backer. This is Devin Buck. Every month, if you're at these tiers, you can pick subjects. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to get to him, but I figured he would like this because he is a Patreon supporter, as a lot of you are. The subject is that Patreon did a major policy change this month. Aaron, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, they changed the way they were going to charge patrons, and they're going to add more of a fee up front for patrons to cover the costs that they normally take out of our hides. But they did it in a way that really punished the people who donate $1 because it was like a 39-cent fee. So you're talking about like a pretty large increase if you're just supporting people at $1, and I think that potentially messed up a lot of people's system that they've got going, because if they have a lot of $1 or $2 donors or whatever, and they basically realized that wasn't going to work after they heard the outcry. And they were like, wow, we really fucked up. We should have, talked to you guys first, and, we're sorry, and we're going to try to, not do something this screwy again without talking to you. So they had, the opposite response to YouTube, who, when they do something like that and fuck you over, they're just like, yeah, sorry about that. Look here, go to our website and check out the rules and regulations and stuff and suck our dicks. It's like... the exact opposite type of corporation.
The thing about Patreon that really blew my mind is that they did talk to us, the content creators, by saying, "Hey, we're about to implement, a change in that you guys are going to get more of a share of the money than we are." But they failed to tell us, the caveat to that, which was going to be how it was going to affect, the actual patrons. And so we made ourselves look like complete assholes like a couple podcasts ago, being like, oh, Patreon's about to roll this thing out. It's going to be great. We're going to make more money off of Patreon. Isn't that fucking wonderful? Oh, you guys are going to love it. And then this bullshit happened.
Speaking of how stupid we are, the day our Patreon, please save our channel video came out was the day they implemented those changes.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
We weren't following the news on that because we were just focusing on the video all day. So we actually posted a video on the day where Patreon was the most hated thing on the internet. So it was a really bad. It was just a typical art bullshit, terrible business sense.
It was the one bonus. The one nice thing is that video, our humor is really dry and sarcastic. So I'm hoping that a lot of people who saw it almost saw it as a parody. Like a Patreon parody video.
Maybe a bunch of people supported you ironically now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of that video, though, hello, the many new Patreon patrons. It's nice to see you all.
Yeah,
you guys actually did get a very nice response from that video.
John, we really did, and we gotta thank you guys a lot for that.
Yeah, actually, that was amazing, and we were all like, man, we were like, shit, you guys, we got to start fucking churning out the videos and stuff. People are really supporting us, up the ass, which we appreciate. We like.
Yeah, you guys do need to do some real work now. We've been carrying you for a while.
Oh, yeah. We're doubling our work hours to 48 hours a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can't just record the games and then just immediately upload it to YouTube like we're used to doing.
Yeah, no, we can't do that anymore. You guys, come on.
Got to actually do some work.
Gotta write a script now, maybe edit something here and there.
Yeah, but I don't wanna.
Yeah.
Hey, I even know how to mod now. Because of all the modding troubles we had, I got into modding, and I'm helping Emery get through it now. So we've got two modders on our squad.
Well, yeah, so Patreon changes. I want to thank you guys for talking about that. Again, thank you, Devin Buck, for not only being a new backer, but also sponsoring that particular subject. The next subject we're going to power through here is One I'm sure we're all sad about. Sponsored by Eric Stevenson, who again didn't have time to pick this, but I assume he would want us to talk about it because he's human. Net neutrality ends for now. What do you guys go for it?
It won't happen.
Well,
There's going to be too many lawsuits.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's bad in a way. This has been doomed for. Here's how I described it to someone else. I don't think. I'm amazed that net neutrality has survived as long as it did, despite the fact that it is hugely popular, because there's a couple of corporations who will profit heavily by getting rid of it. And the only reason I think it has survived is because there are some other huge corporations who benefit from it. Yeah. And what we think about it ultimately doesn't matter, because it basically comes down to this kaiju fight between Godzilla and Mothra, or whatever monsters you want to throw in there.
Well,
right. We're just standing down on the ground level, like
exactly.
hiding in doorways, waiting for the fight to end.
Comcast, Netflix. No, but seriously, it shows the huge disconnect. Because what was it, like 83% of Americans support net neutrality, and they're like, "Yeah, fuck you, throw it out. We don't need it."
And Ajit Pai is like literally putting out "fuck you" videos about this.
Yeah, he's just mocking people who are against it, and he's just human scum. It happens. I
feel like he knows that this is his 15 minutes of fame. You know? And so he's like desperately scrambling to like do anything. Like he's like, infamy, whatever. It's fame.
Well, he's turned himself into a real life Parks and Rec character, because he's actually he's actually a fan of that show, and he's behaving like he's in that fucking show. He's not behaving like he's in reality. He thinks he's a character in Parks and Rec. A Democratic FCC person gave like a really long, impassioned speech about why we shouldn't abolish net neutrality, and at the end of it, he was like, "I'll put you down as a no."
He could not have been smarmier as he said that.
It's just like, wow, someone should have shot him in the fucking head when he said that.
Did he bring his giant Reese's cup that he loves to drink out of to show everyone, "Oh, look at me, I'm cool. I drink out of an oversized Reese's cup"?
And then Trump got tweeted, of course, the classic tweet "Oh, everybody who's against net neutrality just got on the bandwagon." I'm like, dude, you couldn't be more out of touch. Holy fuck.
Dude, he was too busy with the other stuff that's going on in the White House with that woman he just fired from The Apprentice.
Oh, Omarosa.
Yes.
God, you can't even keep. It's like, when I was younger, there was only like one or two scandals a day coming out of Washington. You could vaguely keep track of them. Oh my God.
Not so anymore.
No, the scandals are working in shifts.
So yeah, net neutrality, I don't think it'll stand. It's still extremely scary, and boy, it would just really, the thing is, I know the people who defend it are like, capitalism, free market, the corporations are not going to want to do anything to piss off their customers, and I'm just thinking, don't even say that. Do not even say that. They piss us off daily with the horrible fucking hell that they put us through with their shitty product and their shitty, the internet is already really shitty in most places. You're overcharged for cable and all this other stuff, and there's just so many ways that they don't try to satisfy the customers because they don't have to, because there's one of them,
I mean, the concern is that that Comcast is going to stifle Netflix now, for example, and people are like, it'll never happen. It already happened.
Right. They've already tried. Net neutrality has prevented this shit multiple times over from happening as companies try to lay waste to other companies, and the consumer does not benefit or would not benefit.
Earlier this year, Verizon already did that, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, we were just testing. It was just a test. Don't worry. We're not actually going to do that later."
As I recall, Comcast removed a bunch of the promises they made on their website.
Quietly. They quietly just kind of took them off.
And all this boils down to just the plain fact that providing internet service to Americans or human beings in general shouldn't be a business. It's such an important, vital part of how everything in the world operates. It shouldn't be a business that a company gets into to make profit.
Well, it's
You
the
know?
same thing
Well,
with pharmaceuticals and supplying drugs and health to people, but this is America and everything is a business, so that's just the reality we
There
live
is
in.
one thing I've gotten out of this is that Attorney General for New York State, Eric Schneiderman, is my fucking hero, which means he's probably going to be a pedophile.
I can't laugh too much because I went in the span of like 4 days going, I think I would vote for Al Franken for president to, he's just
Well, Schneiderman basically a year ago, 2 years ago, started suing Time Warner Cable for all these false advertisements they were doing, which if this case passed, it's going to be billions of dollars they're going to owe. He was the first one to start suing FCC for net neutrality. Like, this guy is like, wow, an actual decent politician, which means he's probably killed somebody, and we're going to find out later.
Yeah, still waiting to find that dirt on Bernie Sanders. I mean,
well, his
Find out
life's
after
being
he
investigated.
dies. He's, what, 90?
man.
We'll find out he's actually been a robot this entire time.
He was an ex-Nazi. That's what we'll find out.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nazi past.
Dude,
He's Heinz Himmler.
I know.
He's
That's what
Heinz
makes it
Himmler.
shocking.
It'll be that fucking crazy,
You
dude.
find out when he was 5 years old, he was actually a Nazi sympathizer.
Well, you know what?
He
He
you know what's
turned his
funny?
parents in.
Opinions stated on the podcast are not
That
necessarily.
wasn't an
yours.
opinion. I was just a
That
conspiracy
was
theory.
fact, obviously.
Yeah.
Look, we don't usually try to get too political on here, but
Yeah.
I do remember last year during the actual campaign, I remember seeing stories like that about Bernie that were true, but they were only bad depending on your point of view. For example, it came out that he used to march in support of Martin Luther King.
Oh,
That was supposed to be bad.
Oh, no.
Like, depending on where you are on the political spectrum. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, an area that almost voted for Roy Moore, to them, oh, God, he tried to help?
I was very
People?
very
Wow.
upset. I burned all my Bernie Sanders albums after I heard that.
Half of me flew into a rage when I heard that.
All right. But anyway, I'm sorry, we're not supposed to get too political. We were just going to say net neutrality. We use the internet a lot, so we're sad, but hopefully...
Well, it's not that we're not supposed to. We just don't like to because it sucks.
Well,
So.
net neutrality is not
It is
even a
also an
partisan
entertainment
issue,
channel.
so...
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. It's like something that like 90% of Americans support or something like
Yeah,
that.
no, I agree with that. The problem is we started veering off.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
all. Now, so
I blame
we'll consider
Emery.
that done. Yeah, I do too. I always blame Emery. But anyway, we're going to move on. Thank you, Eric Stevenson. Now we got a round of shout-outs here. So everyone at this level is a Patreon backer who gets a shout-out on the podcast. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to go in a certain order. I've already pre-picked.
Uh-oh.
And you can just make up whatever the hell you want about that person.
Right.
So, Aaron, you're going to go first. Your person is brand new. You have Nick Ferreira.
Nick Ferreira is one of the 90% of Americans who really wants us to keep pet neutrality, which I don't know if you guys have heard about this.
No, I haven't.
It's maintaining a neutral attitude towards your pet, whether it's misbehaving or doing a good job.
Okay. I can
Yeah.
get behind
Good to
that.
know. Emery, you've got Daniel Leapley.
Okay. Daniel Leapley is one of actually a very small percentage of Americans who are in favor of debt neutrality, which is where you take your debt and you basically just print out a whole bunch of Monopoly dollars that look like real dollars in an equivalent amount of the debt that you have. And then you put that on a table and then just stare at it and contemplate whether you're going to kill yourself or not.
That got dark quick.
I've got Cheese Master 007. Well, this one's pretty obvious. He's cheese neutral. He supports any cheese, no more than any other particular cheese. He'll have any type of cheese at all. They're all the same. It doesn't matter if it's from a cow, if it's from a goat, or he even had horse cheese. He didn't give a shit. It's all cheeses are neutral and equal.
Has he ever had cheese from an alien?
I'm sure he has. He is also, if his name also implies he's a secret agent, so he's probably done space shit, and like blew up a fucking like alien craft and stole their cheese. Like, it's very possible. But I'm not supposed to talk too much about that.
Yeah.
Alden, you've got Matthew.
Just Matthew?
Just Matthew.
Okay. Well, Matthew is in favor of shit neutrality, which is all about the freedom to shit anywhere you want, at any time, with no judgments.
Wow.
So if you want to shit in the bushes outside, you go for it. You shit in those bushes outside.
Don't let the big corporations limit your shitting.
Absolutely.
All
right.
So this brings up a really random thing. I think we need to address. Have you seen like the rash of videos of people like shitting in their neighbors' driveways or random strangers' driveways lately?
I saw that.
Funny story. Matthew actually started that.
Yeah, that explains it.
That explains it.
John, you've got Ben Barker.
Ben Barker believes in chaotic neutrality, which means he's actually evil, but the GM wouldn't allow that in the party, so he's figured out a way around it, which is pretty clever.
Yeah. Very clever. No one's ever done that before.
Yeah, and if he wants to give $1 to an orphan, he can do that too.
Aaron, you've got good old Michael Vanderslice.
Michael Vanderslice believes in wet neutrality, which is when someone like pisses on you, you don't get angry.
Okay.
That's just what
Emery,
it's called.
you've got... Yeah, no, I believe it. Emery, you've got Rob Comjathy.
Rob Comjathy is a big proponent of croquette neutrality. Which is where you take a croquette mallet and you beat someone over the head with it while saying, "I am apathetic about this."
Okay. I got a brand new one. We got Hero Palomars, who has recently just started backing us a lot on live shows, but he is also neutral on the subject of pillows. Some people, like, you need specific couch pillows, you need specific sleeping pillows, you need throw pillows. He says, fuck that, all pillows are the same. So he'll use couch pillows in bed, he'll use bed pillows in a couch. He doesn't care, all pillows are the same. Thank you, Hero.
That's a weird opinion to have. Because
it is, isn't it? It's like,
some
why
of
do
my
you even
pillows
care?
are way better than other ones.
Yeah, I know, but he's neutral on it.
That's weird.
Now here we got an interesting one. Alden, you've got John Mangrum.
Oh, well, I actually
Watch
have
yourself.
a funny story for
Watch
you guys. He is a proponent of coquette neutrality, which you would think is a flirty woman, but it's actually a green South American hummingbird. He is all for those hummingbirds.
You don't know me.
He's got like
That's what
20 of them.
that's what every patron is saying after we do these. Is just like, you don't know me, idiots.
But, John, do you know Alden Fisher? Because he's who you've got.
Oh,
I do, and I can tell you, I've known Alden for a while. He is a huge proponent of newt reality, which means he can see the salamanders that are sitting on our heads. I can't, but I believe him. And he says they're all in all of us, and they make us do things that we don't want to do.
Newt reality, huh?
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Take the salamanders away.
I believe it.
Don't judge me.
I want to believe. The truth is out
All right,
there.
well,
The newt is out there.
thank you to everybody who backs us on Patreon. Of course, everybody gets a shout-out. Awesome, all of you. And we're going to move
There's
on
none
to...
left because I was going to talk about chest brutality.
yeah.
Well,
I was
you can talk
just-
about something brutal here in a second.
I was going to talk about Bwet neutrality, which is
Oh,
the
yeah.
desire to keep Bwet, neither on your or my side. And so
we just have one more power round subject, but it's a good leeway into our finale here. Disney acquired 20th Century Fox's film and TV division for like $54 billion. It's official. It happened.
Except
I'm
for
sure
Fox
y'all-
News.
That's why I said film and television.
Yeah, I know. That's why I added to your news story, honey baby.
But that's
Fight,
pointless because they
fight,
didn't acquire
fight.
the sports network. There's a whole thing. That's why I said specifically the divisions they acquired.
Yes, but
Hashtag
people
trigger.
might not know what that means, Adam. Do you ever think
Okay.
about that?
Film and television division. Yes,
Thanks.
I
Okay.
didn't. Agreed. Anyway, so
Fight,
Disney
fight.
bought Fox. Proceed and talk.
Well, as you were reading that, I wanted to yell really loudly. I actually did yell really loudly in excitement when I first heard that, because it means that hopefully we can get a Fantastic Four movie that doesn't suck.
Or Silver Surfer.
Or Silver Surfer. I mean, and we're basically in the perfect setup now that once after Infinity Wars is done and they start the new phase, they can immediately just merge these universes together like nothing happened.
I think they're in a lot better position to maybe do a Secret Wars movie potentially now at some point, like 20 years from now.
yeah.
So, for those who didn't follow this story, people assume it had to do with Marvel characters. That was part of it. They're
Well,
getting
no.
Fantastic Four They're getting the X-Men. They're getting Deadpool. All that stuff.
That's the important part of it.
That's the important part to a lot of fans. One of the other things they're getting that people don't really know much about is
trilogy.
No, they're getting A New Hope. They owned the movie, but they didn't own distribution rights for it. Now they own the distribution rights.
I've heard apparently they got not just the rights to Fox's movies and such, but to the Fox logo itself, so that they can play the Fox fanfare in front of Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and that'll keep the original versions intact.
That's
kind of awesome.
There is an advantage to them having this 20th Century Fox, because we all know Disney's always kind of like, rated R movies, we don't really want to touch that. We did Deadpool, but with this 20th Century Fox, now they can put out these rated R movies and just put the 20th Century Fox logo in front of it and say, hey, we're producing it through us, so don't really associate it with us.
Yeah, as I understand it, it will remain a subsidiary, so it'll do its own thing. I don't know. Personally, I'm of two minds. The nerd in me thinks this is interesting, but then again, this is once again the consolidation of media.
Yeah.
And
yes,
that is a huge problem too.
The grown up in me doesn't like this much at all. But
they control a huge amount of stuff now, basically. And the other problem is now, well, Disney was trying to pull their stuff from Netflix because they were going to make their own streaming service. Now they have a controlling stake in Hulu, which means now they can just use that to throw everything on now.
Well, you're basically hitting the nail on the head there, except for there's one other part to it. They don't want to change Hulu. They want to create their own competitor to Netflix that they own full lock, stock, and barrel. They were going to put their entire archive into that. Now they can put all of Fox's archive into it as well. And that's a big archive. Like, that's not only movies. I mean, that's every season of The Simpsons. That's everything Family Guy. That's all that stuff.
It's like entire. I just recently got Hulu because I was pissed off that Family Guy, and American Dad, and basically all the great Fox cartoons were no longer on Netflix. So I just recently got Hulu. I'm gonna have to fucking ditch Hulu soon because Disney's gonna come out with their own bullshit, and that's where Family Guy's gonna be now. At some point in the future. But
it'll affect certain deals, like certain characters, like the Daredevil show on Netflix. Once it runs through whatever contract they have, they'll eventually move it over. The thing that's not being talked about as much is this could eventually kill Netflix. The combination of this with net neutrality.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're gonna, if Disney proves that this works, there's nothing stopping Warner Brothers from making their own thing. Every studio could just make their own. And just not bother with Netflix anymore.
That's been a creeping problem for a while, though. I think that's why Netflix has been going into original programming as hard as they have.
Oh, definitely.
Because for years now, as soon as Netflix went big, every corporation is like, we got to get our slice of that pie. And every another slice of the pie is something you have to buy separately. So I mean, like the new Star Trek series, I'm not ever going to pay for CBS, so I'm not going to see that show. I'm at my limit here.
The retarded thing about that, and while I know that that's definitely happening, the retarded thing is that the original idea behind Netflix was the exact opposite of what's beginning to happen. The fucking streaming services are just turning into fucking TV channels. It used to be that you went to Netflix because, they had all of the stuff, or at least as much of the stuff as they could get, all in one place. So you didn't have to fucking subscribe to individual fucking TV channels. It's just going backwards now. And net neutrality is going to make it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
or losing exactly net neutrality, right. I mean.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, Emery, is that you want net neutrality to go away so that you can just get a cable package that will have all of these different subscriptions in one package.
No!
A generation from now, people are going to be so sick of this. They're going to be begging for cable again. I think.
Yeah, remember the good
old
days
when bill and
we only paid
channels?
$200 a month for all the channels, and now we have to pay $600 a month for all these different services and websites
I'm
and things.
assuming that inflation will so go out of control that by that point $600 will be 20 cents, so it won't be that bad.
Yeah, the Hellmouth will have swallowed us all by then, I'm sure.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to move on to the final subject here, which is the one we've all been waiting for. There was this little movie that came out recently, a little indie flick. You probably didn't even hear about it.
The Disaster Artist. Oh, right, Star Wars.
Yeah, that was yeah, there's that one too.
Dunkirk.
That's good. Yeah, Star Wars: The Last Jedi has come out. We've all seen it, and we are going to talk about it now. I think it's safe to say, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, I don't know what the hell you're doing here. But
and I just want, since we do have new listeners this year, Alden and I were on the podcast this time last year to discuss Star Wars then, and we learned two major things. One, that Adam hates every Star Wars character who is differently abled. If you can't run, he's got no time for you.
Get off your ass. There's Medicare.
Yep. And two, literally, as we were discussing Star Wars, Carrie Fisher suffered a massive heart attack, and then as people were listening to the podcast, she died. So that's another tradition. Let's see if we can carry that on.
Oh, God.
Who are we killing this time?
To be fair,
what's the
they
death
have
pool?
either the actor or the character themselves has died so far, so we really can't kill anybody else from the old cast.
Chewbacca.
It's a guy in a suit.
You son of a bitch! You just killed Mayhew.
Well, we got we have like that Nordic guy who plays him now.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
But Mayhew was still in there as a Chewbacca consultant. I saw in the end.
They need to cast
Well,
the guy
not
who
for long.
plays.
I don't have anything to say about it.
They need to
Yeah.
cast the guy who plays the Mountain in Game of Thrones as
Watch
Chewbacca.
Anthony Daniels be the next one to kick the bucket, actually. Totally went the wrong way. Not that anyone cares, because apparently no one cares about 3PO anymore, which is fine.
Yeah. Apparently, also everyone kind of hates Anthony Daniels, who knows him in real life too. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right. Let's start talking about the actual movie now.
All right.
I'm just burning with anticipation.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Where are we going to start?
Yeah.
Whatever you want. Just somebody start talking.
Okay,
Alright.
I think we should start by saying whether we liked it or didn't like it or loved it or hated it.
And maybe as a reminder, what you felt about The Force Awakens too.
Correct.
All right, so let's just start with Alden. I don't know.
Okay.
Just go Alden first.
I literally do not know if I love or hate this movie for what happens at the end. Like, I'm still so on the fence about how it ended. Like, what the
Oh, that's
shit?
good. Maybe we can try to convince you of something then.
Aaron,
if you're
just
on the
let the dude
fence.
talk.
Oh, I'm just saying, this is a
just
great
the way it
opportunity.
ended, like, we can just go full spoilers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Full
we're
ham
totally
spoilers.
all spoilers.
Fucking killing Luke Skywalker. What the fucking hell? Like, come on.
Hey, whoa, hold on a second. He didn't die, man. He just became one with the Force, dude.
I would
Still.
not be shocked at all if he had a fairly large, small role.
I feel
in
like
the
he's
next
still
one,
going to have
as
a
a
role,
ghost.
but it was like, hey, Yoda
I
shows
would-
up and says, hey, you need to train Rey, both in your successes and your failures. And then he's like, yeah, fuck that, I'm going to die. I'm out. Bye. See you later.
I would,
Not to mention the
disagree with
last
that,
the
but we'll
last
talk
thing
about
he
it at that time.
says. The last thing he says is
See you around, kid.
"See you around,
Yeah.
kid."
I would love to see him just haunting
That-
Kylo
I-
Ren like something out of American Werewolf in London, just hanging around and annoying him.
That being said, though,
And summoning lightning bolts to strike him.
Yeah.
once
that was awesome. Like, what? That being
Guys,
said,
we're getting off. Just
Adam, let
Okay,
Alden
I-
talk. Jesus.
I
what I'm trying to
love
do, motherfucker.
Mark Hamill's old man, grumpy Luke Skywalker. Like, the sarcastic, bittered old man. I love that. It made me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And I don't know why.
So
Yes.
overall, you're still not sure if you liked it or not.
No, still.
By
I'll
the
pass
end of
it
this,
for the
processing.
third one.
by the end of this conversation, we will have a decision. We will make
Yes.
Alden decide. All right.
Okay, John.
All right, I did not like The Force Awakens, and we went over that last year, so I won't go into detail. I did like Rogue One, so I came
Actually,
into
I'm s-
this. Sorry,
Alden, what was your position?
let me talk.
I like
over him. Right, you wanted to.
Yeah,
You wanted to
I know.
John,
Yeah,
John,
yeah.
shut up. Let Alden talk. God.
This is about me right now. Stop being selfish. God.
Let Alden talk. Alden.
I liked Force Awakens, but I think it clung too much to A New Hope, which I understand because it needed to get the confidence of the fans back.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, John.
All right, so I did not look for the same reasons as Alden just said. I did not really like Force Awakens. It has not gotten any better in my memory. I came into this with an open mind because I do like this filmmaker more, although I actually hated Looper. But open mind, and I ended up thinking this film has problems, but I liked it a lot. I enjoyed the vast majority of this film. And the problems are more in structure and certain characters I don't think they really know what to do with.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, Emery.
Whew. All right, so when I was watching the film, first of all, the Force Awakens, I actually still, after all this time, feel very neutral about it. I feel like it was a lot of fun, but I thought that
You
Kylo
support
Ren,
Force Awakens neutrality.
Exactly. I felt like Kylo Ren was fucking stupid, and I felt like Rey was a Mary Sue. But I liked Finn. I liked a lot of, the aesthetics of it. I liked the story, even though it was exactly like A New Hope. There are some massive plot holes, which I could kind of overlook, but that are still kind of annoying when you think about them. But overall, I feel just kind of neutral about it. Now, The Last Jedi, when I was watching it, I was finding myself enjoying parts of it. But at the end, I really couldn't bring myself to say that I just really liked the movie. Like I said to my girlfriend afterwards, yeah, I liked it. It was good. But I felt dirty saying it because I knew that it wasn't true. I did not really like The Last Jedi.
Okay. Aaron?
I definitely didn't love it. I liked a lot of it.
Force Awakens first.
Force Awakens, I thought was fine. I liked where they were going with it and how they reset the Star Wars universe. And I feel like with this movie, I don't know. I'm conflicted. I can't decide whether to go towards the dark or the light. Like half the characters or whatever. It's like I really wanted. I had liked parts of it a lot. Like, there's some really cool parts. And then there's some other parts where I was just like, no, not necessary. And then there's other parts that made me angry. Like, anything with a morgue in it just made me want to shoot myself. So
I thought the proper term was porg.
A morgue is where you keep the corpses. And I was going, what scene was that? Because
Well,
there are a lot of them.
What do you call them? I really don't
believe
even want to call them.
Porg.
Porg.
Porg?
You were a couple.
Porg.
Yeah, you were a couple little letters off.
The Porgs sent me to the morgue. I don't know.
What are the Porgs?
They're the little
really
seal-headed
bird
puppet
seal
shit.
thing.
Chewbacca's little fuckhead friends.
Oh, penguins. Okay.
Yeah.
I just hated them. I was just like, okay, so you're really, really pandering to the children in like
Star
a really
Wars has
obvious
this
way.
bad habit of doing that. Like,
Yeah.
we wanted this to be an adult film, but we're gonna pander to the children too, and it's like, pick a
Well,
side, please.
I have to say, when I was a kid, my favorite Star Wars movie was Return of the Jedi, and that was because there were little Muppety aliens all over the place.
See,
in it.
my favorite Return of the Jedi was my favorite because it had the best lightsaber fight out of the whole series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron, are you done?
Yeah. So like, it was a real mixed bag. I think I probably liked it better than
What
Force
did you think
Awakens.
of the sea cow and her teats?
That was fun.
A lot
if
of
there's
people
anything on
hate
that island that Luke was on that was not like
A porg.
stupid, it was that.
You didn't care for the little caretaker nun.
No,
fish
that was
ladies?
fucked up. Like, what were those?
Why were they
like,
even there? Like, all of a sudden it was just like, hey, there are these things. Like,
Yeah,
What?
that was just
No.
God, that was dumb. That was everything that part should not have lasted as long as it did with this Luke on the island. I was like, oh, so she'll talk to Luke and there'll be a couple scenes on the island, and then they'll go do stuff. But that never happened. Adam, how did you like the movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Force Awakens, I've made it clear I didn't really love. I liked it the first time, and then it was just A New Hope again. So I didn't know how building off that was going to be like amazing. This movie, I will say, in many ways surprised me. Other ways didn't surprise me because I live on the internet and people just text you spoilers.
I managed to see this movie having seen one
yeah.
preview and only gotten the Yoda spoiler, and that was it.
I didn't
I didn't even get the Yoda
before
spoiler.
I saw it, I got a random tweet that just said, "R.I.P. Snoke, R.I.P. Phasma, R.I.P. Luke."
Jesus.
Phasma's going to be back. Phasma's going to be back again.
I'm just saying that I was like, God, fucking, this is the worst time of the year because you have to avoid spoilers. Anyway, so I got that, and so I was a little pissed off. But I still watched the movie, and it's basically like what you guys are saying. Like, I enjoyed many aspects of it, and then there were other parts of it I was like, that's just downright fucking stupid.
Can I-
that this is a central
Adam,
plot
can I
line.
interrupt you for a second? You guys just said you were going to help me make a decision, and yet you all said the exact same things that I just said.
we're not done. We're all discussing it.
We're building into it.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So at the end of it, I came away enjoying the experience. I remember enjoying it as I was watching it, and then I've dissected it more in my mind. And ultimately, I come away with you should definitely see it. I recommend it, but there are some parts in there where I just kind of question, like, was that really the best way to do it? So overall, I would say I did like it, but I need to see it again. I need to.
Well,
it did fuck with my expectations. I gotta give it that.
Absolutely,
they took some bold choices that most major movies, especially in their second film in a trilogy, would never make. Now that creates different problems that we can all discuss if you guys want to do that.
Yeah. Now, and speaking of bold things, I have to say, when I was watching the movie, the moment that Snoke lost the use of his legs and then immediately died, I know Adam's gonna love this part right here.
Yeah.
well,
Adam's like, yeah, kill the handicapped guy. Kill him.
Here's my problem with this movie, like, and this trilogy as it's going. It like builds up these characters so much, and then it's like, yeah, we don't need them. Like Snoke, it was like, hey, here's this big terrifying Snoke. Oh, nope,
See, now,
Snoke's dead. Hey, Luke's here. He's gonna be an awesome trainer. Oh, nope, Luke's dead too now.
Actually, what I liked most about this movie, and what was also telling me that there was no real grand plan for this trilogy going into it, though, was how much dead wood. What's the director's name? I can't remember.
Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson. How much dead wood Johnson clears out of The Force Awakens. Rey's parents?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Really
Who gives a shit? Who's Snoke? Who gives a shit? He's dead. Where'd the lightsaber come from? Oh, we're never going to find out. Who cares?
You like that? Because that pisses me off.
No, that made me angry because I wanted more of that. I want to know who Snoke is. Why is Snoke doing this? Oh, okay. He's dead.
What I liked about it was that Snoke is nothing but the Emperor Redux, right?
Yeah.
And so, but then they just like, we're done with him. Screw it. We're not going to keep dragging this out. He's done. He is flat out done.
So that actually is a valid point that I thought of the same thing, and it made me actually dislike The Force Awakens more.
Oh yeah, this is not a film that makes The Force Awakens better. No,
it makes Force Awakens look incompetent.
There are times when it's really dunking on The Force Awakens. I did like seeing General Hux getting slapped all around like
that was hilarious. I loved it.
Yeah.
When you know that J.J. Abrams, if you follow his career, he's very good at setting up mysteries with no idea what the payoff is. Mm-hmm. So he set up a whole bunch of things for Force Awakens just to see, and of course everybody falls for it. They're like, oh, he's got a plan. It's all going to go somewhere. This movie proves that wasn't the case.
Listen, Lost was on the air for 7 seasons. It did not have a plan for any of it.
Yeah, no, it really didn't. And you can only go so far with that type of suspense. So this movie had the task of addressing a lot of it, and they just kind of took what worked and what didn't, and they changed them around. Now, Snoke, of course, I hated Snoke from the beginning. I thought that was a stupid character, and I was like, the only way that works is if that's Darth Plagueis. That is the only way that works.
Yeah.
I always said, I just don't want him to be just some guy.
Yeah.
Just don't make him just some guy. And I remember harping on that hard in the last podcast. And he was ultimately, unless they tell us something we didn't know in the next movie, he was just some guy.
He's
worse. He's worse than some guy.
He didn't
even get a fucking backstory whatsoever.
No.
At all.
That's my point. That's why he's just some guy.
Dude, it's less than some guy, though, because, you know what I mean?
Here's the thing. The Emperor initially got no backstory, but worked on his performance, but also because they built him up. He's been behind the sines the whole time, and you know what role he fits in. He's the fucking Emperor.
His name alone tells you his story.
Yeah, Snoke. Right. Like where? Just to look at Snoke, the first question that pops in your mind is, where was this guy in the other two trilogies?
Well, here's the problem with these movies, and I talked about it in the last podcast, was there's a 35-year gap between the end of Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. So basically, they have to sit there and go, well, we'll tell a story about something that happened 35 years later, but we really can't go into what happened during those 35 years because we only have about 2 hours of movie to do it. So a lot of stuff is just going to get thrown to the wayside.
And I remember complaining about that in our Force Awakens discussion, where I just kind of said, like, the problem was that Force Awakens did a horrible job of establishing its own universe. You don't really know what's going on. You just needed a few lines. It really wouldn't have taken much, but they didn't do it. And they did shoot some they did shoot scenes of it kind of explaining what the relationship between the Republic and the Resistance was.
Right.
But they didn't use it in the final film. And that was unfortunate because that was obviously crucial. Especially in this film where, like, when I remember at the end of Return of Jedi, good guys won. Why are all of a sudden the good guys, like, not in power, and why are they almost destroyed? What the fuck's going on? Like, they just did a really bad job of that.
Can I talk about a huge glaring plot flaw?
Of course. Go for
So, when they're running from the Imperial or the First
Oh,
Imperial
I'm
fleet,
wondering
First
if you're-
Order fleet,
I'm
and
wondering
the
if you're
ships
going
are
to bring up
flying,
the same
and
problem I was
they
going
run
to.
out of gas, and suddenly the ships stop moving.
Oh, no, that's not a plot hole. That's Star Wars space physics.
When you are moving in space, it does not matter if you run out of gas. You
Yeah,
will
but they don't-
continue going
They
in
don't
the
make
same
noise,
direction.
though.
Well, Alden, if you're spending fuel, then you're accelerating. So
Okay,
they
but you
stopped
still
accelerating.
don't stop in space.
I know,
But
but
from that, there
it's-
were two other problems I had. One, okay, so we assume that the rebel ship is full tilt accelerating, so that the New Order can't catch up with them.
Yeah.
If that's the case, how do the ships, when the ships fall back and run out of fuel, their their shuttles come out and catch up with the main ship? How do they do that? That's one.
Star Wars space.
If
The
everyone's
second-
going
oh,
full,
wait.
but the second thing is too, the reason they're not jumping ahead is because they'll only do it once. They'll get followed. Blah blah blah. Why
No,
doesn't
not-
the New Order jump
in
to
front
light
of them.
speed in front of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, fuck all this shit.
No,
Why
wait,
doesn't
wait.
Either side just grab one of their hyperspeed
Shut-
capable ships
and crash it into somebody?
just fucking
How
hyperspace.
how
jump
has
into
no one
whatever the-
used this as a weapon?
Yeah.
Like-
Why didn't Akbar just do that to the goddamn Death Star?
Good God, this was a fucking weapon they had the entire time, and no one has decided to take a hyperspace capable ship and just crash it and blow up an entire fleet.
Yeah, I
the
know,
rebels
that
could
was-
have won the Battle of Endor
It was
with
beyond
a ship.
stupid.
Hey,
Like,
one
at that
ship.
point, I couldn't
It
believe
was
what was happening.
inspired. She just thought of it, you guys. No one ever thought of that before. And she was like, oh, I have an idea. And then she did it.
Fortunately, no one will
the
ever
entire
use that
Star Wars
tactic
universe,
again.
just the movie universe, covers like 70 years. Are you telling me in a galaxy full of trillions of people in 70 years, no one had this fucking idea?
Well, if you look at the old, what's the old time frame called?
Old Republic?
The Old Republic. Tech was all the same like thousands of years ago. So
Yeah.
no one's really been working on any of this.
But the thing is, it falls apart when you realize that the fucking First Order officers, once they realized what she was doing, they reacted knowing what the outcome was going to be. You know, they're like, "Oh, everybody fire on that ship!" Because they were like, "Holy shit, she's doing the maneuver where you fucking jump to hyperspace, pointed at an enemy ship,
gonna
and it, like,
Picard
annihilates
maneuver
the
it.
entire
How?
fleet."
Exactly.
They knew about it.
Why has no one done it?
It's goddamn stupid. She was the only person on that ship. You just take one person and one ship, and you can do whatever the goddamn
all
fuck
those
you want.
three ships that they
C-3PO was
sacrificed,
goddamn
they
lucky
could have
that-
just done it.
And what I loved was she stayed behind to pilot the ship, and she was just kind of wandering around. It's like C-3PO is so goddamn lucky they didn't keep him. So you need to push this button every 3 minutes. Until...
You know what was really cool, though, guys? Was when the ships were broken apart and then they were all blowed up and, like...
That was a
They
very
looked-
nice visual.
They looked
moment.
really cool. Like,
Yeah,
I was
it was
like...
nice.
That doesn't make
Cinematically,
any
that
sense,
worked.
but it looks
Yeah.
really cool.
I also was very upset, like, at the part in the beginning when they blow up the bridge of Leia's ship and all the bridge crew dies, and then Leia's like, "Oh wait, I'm a Jedi." Like, no,
Oh,
you
God.
should have just let her die right there. She is dead in real life. Just
Well-
let her die there. Don't bring her back and give us hope for movie number 9, which she can't be in because she's dead.
I understand, but that's hindsight stuff. The whole movie was in the can,
Right.
basically.
But
before
what I
that.
would have still, now that she's gone,
There-
you should have been like, "Oh
Yeah.
shit, we need to edit this," because now.
That
What are
would
they
have
going to
been-
do in 9? Are they going to
Yeah.
kill her off screen now? Like, what are they going to...
Well,
my bet
that's
is
true.
they'll start the next movie with a funeral or something, probably.
Well,
They didn't start this one with Han's funeral. I'm just saying.
this is supposed to be... Well, they talked about it before. These 3 movies. Like, so Force Awakens was Han's movie. Last Jedi is Luke's movie. So this number 9 was supposed to be Leia's movie.
Yeah.
However, there is no Leia.
There can be CGI face Leia.
Oh god, no.
They've
Yeah.
promised they're not
She-
going to do that.
But I
Yeah,
thought
so it's
she was in this though. She looked CGI in
No,
one scene.
No, she
CGI in
did
the court
all
scene.
she did all of her filming before.
Yeah, they were done with filming
Okay.
with this by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just what Carrie Fisher looked like, dude.
Dude, the part where she was fucking pulling herself back into the ship. That,
Yeah.
The little
that
Superman
bothered-
move
that
kinda pissed
bothered
me
me
off.
so much.
Considering that the new trilogy has just decided to amp up the powers of the Force for every Force character.
Oh yeah, like
I
the
thought
Force is just this amazing ability now. Like,
on
you can
that
do
level,
anything.
I went, okay, that's a badass moment. And considering the fact that she was the other backup plan if Luke didn't stop the Emperor, it's nice to finally show her doing something other than getting long distance feelings. With
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the style
So,
of Skywalker
okay,
midichlorians.
I'd like to make an observation about this movie and about all Star Wars movies. In my experience, especially with not including the first three that were made, I liked moments in all of the movies. The movies as a whole were often extremely flawed and ultimately not great to get into as a lore enthusiast or someone who wanted a complex story that has a lot of different angles. And so what I think is happening with Star Wars is it's becoming less and less for Star Wars fans. It's becoming something more for casual moviegoers who just want to go see some shit blow up for a while and not really have to worry about it as much.
So Transformers.
Yeah, so Transformers, but better than Transformers, except for the Porgs. But they'll probably have Porgs in the next Transformers too. Why not? And so
I
I
was
think they're
not
just-
nearly as I liked the
Yeah,
Porgs.
I wasn't
thought
bothered
they
by
were
the
I
fine.
didn't.
The
Horses
Porgs
bother
were-
me at all. I think they're
No.
just a grumpy
They
old
had
man.
no point other than
like
to sell
Luke.
toys, but they
Yeah.
weren't really invasive.
Oh, they fucking pissed me off more than anything ever.
Honestly,
they're like
aliens,
Ewoks.
The aliens being comic relief is just a thing that Star Wars has done for a long time. What
Yes.
actually bothered me more was turning Hux into a fucking rubber ball that you throw around the room every scene that he's in.
I have
That
no problem
bothered
with
me a
that.
little
See,
bit more.
I
hate
like
Hux,
that because in the
so-
last one, I thought that the actor was just badly miscast. Because every other movie I've seen him in, he's the ginger, he's the kind of hapless little doofus.
Yeah.
And to put him in that role, but I actually felt this movie had a much stronger feeling of what its characters were than Force Awakens did. And that basically Hux he's the alt-right guy. He's the guy who wants to be a fucking Nazi, but he's just this sniveling little internet shit.
I mean,
who
it's
deserves
cool to have a
everything
character
coming to
like
him.
that, but he shouldn't be
Yeah.
the motherfucking leader of it. He's the
Well,
commander of the
by
army.
by the end of the movie though, he's getting force choked and he's been put in his place. Let's put it that.
Did
Yeah, but
any
Emery,
of
don't
you
you remember
guys-
all those? Don't you remember all those scenes where Peter Cushing got fucking thrown around and beat up and?
Yeah,
exactly.
it happened all the
That's
time.
it.
What the
There was a
fuck?
huge
It's not like
difference there.
Moff
thing is,
Tarkin never
once-
talked down to Vader.
Dude, he was
Grand Moff
Vader's
Tarkin
equal.
outranked
you know?
Vader.
They were buds.
People forget that. Grand Moff Tarkin outranked Vader.
They liked
He's
each
second
other.
in command to the Emperor. Vader was not. He was just his apprentice. And then once the Death Star was destroyed, that was it. Vader was the only survivor of the Death Star.
Exactly.
So he actually had new authority at that point.
It was interesting as an adult coming back to Star Wars and realizing that in the first movie, the relationship between them is basically Goldfinger Oddjob. That Vader's just his henchman and he's the main villain of the whole thing. Yeah, because when I was like, yeah.
So, I mean, what
so-
I think is happening here is that they're just sort of gradually going to phase out hardcore Star Wars fans, and it's just going to become a more relaxed sort of regular installments of movies that might be worth watching. But honestly, my passion for Star Wars was dulled a bunch by this movie. I really liked scenes. There were a lot of cool stuff. But I think ultimately that when the next movie comes out, I'm just going to be a little bit more moving towards, it's probably going to see it,
Well,
but I don't, whatever.
That's very much the same thing for me, and I think the reason why is because I am no longer able to suspend my disbelief when it comes to a lot of very important things, including the rules of the Force. It's the biggest reason why midichlorians were such a slap in the balls to everybody back in the day, because it's whoa, wait a second. We know what the Force is. Why are you telling us it's something different? Same thing here, where we're we see fucking Leia floating through space. We suddenly Rey and Kylo Ren can fucking communicate across galaxies.
Luke can make
Fucking
Force
Yoda can summon
holograms.
lightning bolts.
Yeah.
Can I speculate on that a little bit? One of
go
the
for
points I'm gonna go a little neutral here. Haha. But one thing that the movie tries to hit on is the theme that you have to get rid of the old and you have to understand the Force more and you have to go into the future. What you're essentially seeing throughout the course of the whole saga is the evolution of the Jedi and the Sith's understanding of the Force. Rather than trying to weaponize it or to try and deify it, they just try to understand it more. And when you understand it more, that unlocks different things you may not have already known. So, no, I'm not done. So at the end of...
Let him talk, Alden.
I haven't
thought
really
this was
said
my
anything for the most
podcast.
part, dude. Like, so at the end of the prequels, they did a horrible job of this, but they started talking about how Qui-Gon discovered the ability to, like, you know, become a Force ghost.
Yeah.
And then this was, like, the next evolution of that. Like, Yoda obviously did that. Obi-Wan did that. Yoda, in this movie, came back and he went to the next level of that, which is you can start interacting with things. Luke might be the first one to go to the next level beyond that, which is Force projection.
Do you guys know that in an early draft of Return of the Jedi, originally, Yoda and Obi-Wan were going to return from the Force physically and help Luke fight the Emperor?
Really?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness in the original version of Return of the Jedi, or Revenge of the Jedi at that time.
Yeah.
So I don't mind what they...
Well, yeah, all right. Well, Aaron's probably
I don't mind what they did with the Force. I think the evolution of the Force is a good thing. I think there needs to be changes to it. I don't think it should be this stiff, unyielding, same thing every movie. But what I actually have a theory about, so like Luke became one with the Force, right? Now Yoda and Obi-Wan, you see them later, they're dead, whatever. But what if, since we have this new astral projection thing on the table, what if Obi-Wan and Yoda are actually just using some oneness with the Force that they learned to project themselves into the future at moments where they found through the Force that they were going to be needed or important, and went and communicated, but they did it while they were alive. What if they're not doing it from some sort of afterlife? What if they actually just traveled in time, astral projection-like?
I was a huge Star Wars nerd back in the day. Like, I read all the expanded lore, and that was actually a Force ability that they went into. So, like, Adam was talking about and you're talking about, I don't mind them expanding on the Force and all this stuff. My problem is the way they're structuring this plot now. Like, I don't like some of the decisions that they're going with. For example, in Force Awakens, you saw this Rey and Finn love interest type thing, and now they're like, hey, we're going to stray away from that, and now we're going to introduce this new character, Rose, and put this weird relationship dynamic in. And Rey's going to sit there and look over them like, so what are we talking about? Like, are Jedi supposed to be unhappy and miserable and alone their entire life? Because basically that's what they've taught us through all these movies, that these people who become Jedi and have the Force are never allowed to be happy. They're going to die alone on some deserted planet by themselves, because that's all we see.
So hitting on that point, we kind of talked about this a little before, but when you look at The Force Awakens, and it obviously was intended to set up a whole bunch of stuff with no real plans for how to pay them off. You see it in an example, just as you cited, with Finn and Rey possibly having a relationship. Clearly, that was Disney going, okay, this is the reactions we got from Force Awakens. Here's how we should change it. So let's add a different character. People don't seem to want them to be together. And you just get all these different approaches, which is why, you know, it's like, oh, the parents, let's make a big deal out of the parents. They were just junkers. It's whatever. They sold you for beer money. You just have a bunch of different things that... I can't get over the fact that this movie really makes Force Awakens look genuinely incompetent.
Yeah.
Not only in those type of things, but even in stuff they couldn't figure out a way to explain. For example, the Knights of Ren. Was that even acknowledged in this film?
So it did talk about it one scene.
There was one small reference. There was only one small reference when he says, Luke says, he killed everybody and he took a few and then he left. And then it was like, that's it.
Where'd they go?
I knew from some of like the peripheral advertising stuff that they weren't, but I came out of the movie. My honest thought was, were the Red Guards for Snoke, were they the Knights of Ren? That would have made.
But then why would they sit there and go up against Kylo?
They're not. They're just his
well,
version
here's
of
my
the
other
Imperial
issue
Guards,
too.
but...
Like this during that lightsaber fight, did any of you look at it and say, "Would someone please teach these people how to use swords?" Because it looked to me like Kylo and Rey were just swinging around like idiots.
Yeah,
the entire fight. Like, nobody knew what they were doing in this fight. Like, the choreography was just
considering
awful.
Rey has, like, this would be her second lightsaber fight ever. That'd be awesome.
Even Snoke, in this movie, acknowledges that was dumb in The Force Awakens. He says, you were bested by a girl who had never even held a lightsaber.
It didn't
And so
get
it's not like she would be
better.
any better. I mean, she's
But-
just been swinging it on a rock.
right,
Go ahead.
but she's been trained to use her staff. She's been trained in combat to some degree. She should be able to fight. Yet she looks like she has no idea what she's doing. And even the guards, who are supposed to be Snoke's top of the best men, whatever, looked like they had no idea what they were doing in this scene. Like, the choreography was just awful. Like, they were just, I don't know.
Totally
Yeah, but
agree with
Alden,
you
they
on
had
that.
force whips.
Oh, right. Well, that made it all better. I'm sorry.
The weapons were cool.
I have to admit, I don't remember much about the choreography because I was actually kind of just admiring the cinematography in that scene.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're masturbating.
There were children.
Ugh, Kylo!
Oh, that's even worse, John. Jesus, you shouldn't have mentioned that.
I want to say real quick that I don't. I like the idea of force powers like evolving. You know, for example, the projection that Luke does at the end. I fucking loved that.
Oh, I thought that was
Yeah.
awesome.
I thought it was
definitely.
amazing.
Was anyone else surprised by it? Because I gleaned that there was something like that happening right away.
I actually was.
I was
was
surprised. I was
surprised.
legitimately
I
surprised.
knew he was
and
going to die because the fucking asshole ruined it for me. I
And,
thought he was going to die.
and here's the
when Blade
thing:
went
once,
down.
as soon as I realized what was happening, which was more or less instantly, I started paying a lot of attention to it. And he's very honest with it the whole time. There were people wondering, Luke does not leave footprints on the red salt as he's walking around, unlike
Yeah, oh, sure.
Kylo.
It's brilliant, right?
Yeah,
So,
it is,
but
yeah.
but like that power, the reason why I'm cool with it is because it is acceptable. It's explained in the film why he would be able to develop a power like that, because he's essentially a pacifist now, you know. And in fact, he even mentions early on in the film, it's like, what do you expect me to do? To like go on and take out an entire army myself? You know, he foreshadows that kind of thing. So that power. It comes from a place of like foreshadowing, comes from a place of like backstory. Like it makes sense that he could develop that power.
Yeah,
The things that I don't
that power,
like
yeah.
are, for example, the fact that Snoke is like, oh, by the way, I can like set up this
Mind
like
meld?
this fucking
He-
Skype thing between you two guys.
J.J. Abrams
And
clearly
then-
stole that from Star Trek and was like, I'm going to Vulcan mind meld these guys. It's
Exactly.
going to be awesome.
And then
Everyone's
after
gonna love
Snoke died, after Snoke died, they can still fucking do it.
To be fair, Vader and Luke could do that. It just wasn't on the same level.
it. And Luke
Yeah,
and Leia
Probably
could
because
do
it was
too,
older text
but,
that wasn't as evolved yet.
But here's the thing. Luke and Vader were father and son. Leia and Luke
I know.
were
I-
brother
I-
and sister.
I get
It made
that.
sense. They were related.
Yeah,
I get that.
But
There's
this,
more of an
this
emotional
movie
connection.
posits that Rey and Kylo are like flip sides of the coin. Like they're the
Yes.
alpha and omega of
does-
the Force.
Yin
Right.
and yang.
I kept thinking
And-
about Unbreakable.
Maybe they are related because, you know, Kylo lies, so we don't actually know. Although I personally am a fan of the idea that her parents aren't important and that
I-
she's just
I
you know,
want to
I'm a fan of that.
Whatever.
I want to comment on that. So, two things. One, the idea is that she could actually be the exact opposite of Anakin Skywalker, another child born of the Force who they didn't really know what to do with, and so they dumped her on a planet, just like Anakin literally came from the same circumstances. But rather than turning out like a fucking shithead, theoretically she wouldn't. So that could be the logic they're going for. Because the other thing is, since we know Carrie Fisher can't possibly be in the next one, they have to find a way to not have her there. That means Kylo Ren is the last of the Skywalker lineage.
Which is awful.
Isn't that fucking weird, though, when you think about it?
Yeah,
Like,
I
he's
was
the
thinking
last
about this.
one.
Well, look
So
at it this way.
he would have to be the presumed balance to
Yeah,
that.
I would like
be-
to remind everyone that George Lucas considered the theme of his Star Wars movies to be how, as a father, you fail, but you are redeemed by your children.
Well,
Kylo Ren is
he
the
got
last
fucked.
of the Sky. Yeah.
Okay, so about Kylo Ren, they do a they do a good job of making his character kind of like develop a little bit more in this film. So I ended up
Yeah.
liking him a lot more in this film than I did in The Force Awakens. But one thing that they still completely dropped the goddamn fucking ball on is giving any sort of explanation for why he had the darkness in him to begin with. Why he ended up kind of being a piece of shit. There was one slight miscommunication between him and fucking Luke Skywalker when Luke Skywalker snuck into his tent with a
Here's
that
the
was-
other problem with this right there. That fight, well, not even fight, that confrontation right there. He can't beat fucking Rey, but he managed to take out Luke and be like, "Oh, killed you with a bunch of buildings. I'm good. Bye." Like, come on.
Well,
Did you guys
actually,
notice the sheer number of small buildings and huts that got blown up by angry Force users in this movie?
Ever since Jabba, it's not a hut-friendly universe.
They're really into that whole the roof getting blown off of a building because of an angry Force man.
But actually, what Emery just said,
Or lady. Come on, let's not be sexist.
yes, sorry.
or what Lady just said, no, is that was actually made Snoke more frustrating because the justification for why Kylo or Ben had gone so dark so quickly was that Snoke had already gotten to him, but Snoke is no one.
Yeah.
But it never explained when,
Yeah.
where, how.
You know why? Because Snoke was Skyping him the whole time.
Oh, yes, mind Skyping him.
That's why he got killed, because he was distracted he was talking to someone else on Skype.
He was looking at porn. We all know. Look at that face he's making during that whole scene. He was watching porn. Let's be
Dude,
honest.
fucking Snoke probably catfished the shit out of him.
That's why Snoke looks so fucked up, because he's watched all the videos on Pornhub.
That is what happens.
Shriveled his
when you watch
entire
that.
body.
He was probably force watching Pornhub during that final confrontation, which was probably his downfall.
So
That's probably the
wanna
true
talk-
thing that happened is that, Luke walked into his tent one night or his hut one night and saw him force Skype watching porn with Snoke.
Was anybody
And
watching-
that's
Just
why he
like
wanted to
Roy
kill him.
Moore.
To get off the porn subject, as much as I love it, was anybody else hoping that Luke would show up in his X-wing and start blowing up TIE fighters?
That's
'Cause
what I
kept
thought was
hoping
going to
that for the
happen.
I actually thought
entire
that
movie.
would happen.
That's what I was expecting.
Like, they showed us the X-wing underwater, and I
Yeah.
was like, he's going to come up in his X-wing and start blowing the shit out of stuff. And they're like, wow, he's better than Poe. And they never did it.
No.
Well, that's what I was expecting. Once they didn't do it, I was thinking that's fine. That X-wing's been sitting under salt water for 10 years.
30 years.
Yeah, I can buy that thing. You can lift it out of the water, but you ain't flying it nowhere. That's
it depends on how well built they're made. We don't.
Yeah,
really
we don't know,
Those things are
but
designed
that's-
for
that's actually-
constant atmospheric
yeah.
re-entry.
But that's actually what tweaked me to him being some kind of projection right away. It's like, well, how is he here? And I didn't buy the ship. I didn't buy his X-wing.
Yeah.
I'm not upset about that. I thought that was actually
Yeah,
really good in this direction.
Yeah, I'm not,
I
I'm
like
not
that.
Yeah, it
totally
It
not
was,
upset
but-
about that.
I was hoping Chewie had, like, gone back and got him. And was like, listen, you idiot.
Boy,
you need
poor
to go do
Chewie.
something.
He had nothing to do in this. He
Oh,
literally
was
just
fucking
sat
around
around
with
eating
porgs the whole movie.
Yeah.
But dude, he was used only a couple of times, and I think he was used appropriately, especially just to get an emotional reaction out of Luke.
Yeah.
And to be like muscle. That's really what he was good for.
Yeah.
'Cause the thing coming out of this movie that I really thought is Disney knows which characters to keep and which not to. Like, they keep Chewie because they can put a different guy in the suit.
Same
and he
with
just
R2.
growls.
Yeah, exactly.
Same with R2.
Exactly.
Same with C-3PO. Granted, you need Anthony Daniels
Yeah.
for the voice, but whatever.
Do you?
And
Except,
they started pushing
except
away
for
the
Admiral
ones you
Akbar.
Can't do that with. Yeah, Admiral Akbar they killed. Which they killed him in the most pointless way ever.
Yeah.
Like, they always
Yep.
Admiral Akbar is this military genius for the rebellion. Oh, he got killed. All right, move on.
I was literally thinking, was that Akbar? I mean, it sounded like Akbar, but who knows?
Yeah,
And then they
well,
say
they
Akbar's dead. I'm like, oh, well, that was Akbar.
Well, that was okay. Bye.
I want to point out something, too, that I've thought about since the very first Star Wars movie. They always have bridges, right, on these ships. And the bridge is always in a very exposed area
With a
on a
giant,
ship.
oversized windows.
Yeah, with huge windows, they don't have monitors or something. They need to literally be looking through some fucking glass to see space outside.
You have to remember,
And-
this is a universe that has only just begun to adopt the safety rail. So
Exactly.
This
There's
is a
no
long time
OSHA
ago in a
space.
galaxy far, far away. Yeah,
this
OSHA
is
doesn't
a
exist
universe
yet.
designed to have things blow up real good.
But that has been a thing that has been around forever, and
Yeah.
I've always just assumed that the bridge portion of the ship has like the highest concentration of shields like ever because it's like the most important part of the ship.
No,
and
no,
fucking
no,
two
no, we
goddamn
can't
like
afford-
bombers blow up the
we
entire
cannot
bridge.
afford shields on the bridge. Okay, we have to put them other places. Cutbacks.
Fucking God! Just,
Ever since the Republic went downhill, the credit does not go as far as it used to.
Didn't in
So I
Return
wanna-
of the Jedi? Didn't an X-wing get
A-wing
hit?
flew into
into the bridge.
Well,
the Superstar Destroyer.
In that
Yeah.
movie, though, they said their shields are gone.
their
They-
shields
okay.
are down.
Okay.
Yeah.
God damn it!
That's why he was like, intense. What? Shields are down. Sorry. Shields are gone. Shields are down. I was paraphrasing. Get over it.
Well, no, I wasn't angry at you. I was just angry, you know, because like there was an explanation in that movie for why that would work.
He said
There's no
intensify
explanation
forward
here.
power,
Yeah.
and then they didn't intensify.
What they didn't tell you is that some of those porgs actually fell out of the Millennium Falcon and got into the
Gremlins
works of the machine. Fucking took down the shields.
Damn.
They just didn't tell you that.
And
That's in the George Lucas cut.
but then again,
George Lucas
think
had
about like
Gremlins in the
Poe.
prequels.
Poe was sitting there blowing up turrets off a giant ship with just his X-wing. Like, wow, this one ship is taking out this massive battle cruiser by himself.
Yeah, there's also that.
Aaron, the thing we did, the joke we just made about porgs like getting in the ship and like eating up the cables and all that stuff and breaking it down. Did you know you remember that creature in The Force Awakens that's like it's there when Rey goes to get the portions and it walks on four legs and has like a giant back, you know, like a giant metal back. And
Yeah.
it almost looks like a camel.
Yeah.
There is actually a comic that is apparently canon of that thing having a bunch of little like other versions of itself, like children, whatever, and they were actually on the Death Star at the time of the Rebel assault. A bunch of them escaped into the Death Star and were actually doing exactly that shit.
What the
And
fuck?
so it doesn't come to an exact conclusion, but it seems to imply that Luke's blowing it up might have been slightly aided by that effort.
The first Death Star or the second one?
The 1977 original A New Hope
Okay.
Star Wars
By a bunch of tiny camels?
by a bunch of tiny camels like eating cables and shit.
Tiny camels saved everyone?
Like that actually made the job easier
Holy
unintentionally.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
So I
If
I
I
just remembered
ever
that,
see a
and
tiny
I was
camel
like,
in
oh,
real
fuck.
Wait a
life,
minute,
I'm
wait a
giving it
minute.
a wide berth.
Was what was the main character in Rogue One? What was her name again? It just fell out of my head.
Jin
Jin.
Erso?
Jen Erso. Was Jen Erso a tiny robotic camel?
Yeah, she was two tiny robotic camels in a human
The
body.
whole time.
Whoa!
So even I wish I was kidding about that, but that is an actual comic. It doesn't tell you like straight up, hey, they totally destroyed the Death Star, but it seems to imply they at least helped.
Well, since you mentioned
the other
that, oh, sorry, yeah.
Go ahead. No. I was gonna just switch to a different thing about this movie, but if you got something, go for it.
Aaron was talking earlier about how the movies are becoming kind of more for casuals and such. As someone who one long time ago, for a little while, I wrote for D&D stuff. So I've had personal experience working in shared worlds that's moved on from the original generation that created it. And so instead of being more for generals, what the new trilogy really reminds me of is basically just fanfic or expanded universe stuff. These are not the original creators. That was George Lucas. Love him or hate him, and I know a lot of people hate him, but like the first 6 Star Wars movies were George Lucas's baby, and now it's this next
Gary
generation.
Gary Kurtz.
Yeah,
Don't forget Gary
and
Kurtz.
there were a lot
he
of
was its mother.
There were a lot of people, but ultimately, just Lucas and his people around him. This is a next generation of people who had no involvement really in the first. So now they, unlike Lucas, are caught in this having to want to retain the things that they think are familiar, but change them up just enough. Lucas never cared about what he changed up. Not he would throw midichlorians at you and not worry about it. So this all feels very familiar to me. Like the fact that if you really break this movie down, it's bare bones. This is Empire Strikes Back with some Return of the Jedi thrown in the middle, except they took the Battle of Hoth and moved it to the end.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Like,
Yeah,
basically combining the two sequels, you're mixing it up so that it stays kind of fresh and
Yeah.
weird, but at the same time, yeah, there's definitely like, join me and together we will rule.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, all right.
Here's my thing with this. Like, I have no problem with that, but what I would have rather they had just done is said, fuck it, all the old is out, and just jump to a new trilogy. Like, go 100 years ahead, 200 years ahead. Let us see what's happened in the galaxy since then and start from there. Then you can just mold your own story and create your
There
own
was
thing.
no way that Disney was going to do that while those actors were alive.
Yeah.
They needed to re-secure Star Wars. That's what Force Awakens did.
Yeah.
Force Awakens had a purpose, and it just doesn't hold up well now that that purpose is fulfilled. And this movie had to change things up, and I think it did in a lot of good ways. At the end, I kept at the very end. I'm like, how is there an episode 9? Like, this is almost the end of a trilogy right
Well,
here.
then the end where Leia's like, we have all the things we need for resistance right here. I'm like, you got 6 people.
No, they have orphans. They have orphans.
Orphans
Yeah, that's
with
right.
brooms.
Yeah.
You know the best, the orphans with brooms, exactly. The
Force
best
sensitive
critique-
child janitors. That's their army.
Best critique I've seen of the movie so far says like, like when are we going to move on from the Skywalker family? Because there's this amazing universe and so many other stories to tell.
It did. It was called Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One, one of my favorite Star Wars experiences in the theater.
Oh,
probably.
by far, yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Right, but it's still like heavily involved with.
But still,
the
like even like the
events.
next standalone is Han Solo. Like I love Han Solo as a
Right.
character. I don't care about his backstory.
I don't
It
care
doesn't
I don't
matter.
care about that movie.
You
at
know,
all.
the standalone I am looking forward to? Obi-Wan.
Even
Oh, yeah.
Obi-Wan. Like, what are they gonna tell? Like,
Well,
There's
it's got to be.
nothing
It's got to
really-
be. I'm hoping that it's just some small story while he's on Tatooine, gets involved in, shit. Just some. What I want is a western, and he's the old gunslinger, and he gets pulled into some
Yeah, he goes
unforgiven
around
type
and like
situation. Yeah.
protects prostitutes and
Yeah.
kills.
Yeah, there's a lot
Thieves,
of there's a
cattle
lot of
rustlers.
drama in that. I mean, this guy Obi-Wan at that point would feel like I'm the dude who broke the galaxy.
Yeah.
Like he created the guy who did break the galaxy. And there would be a lot of weight on him, and at the same time he has to watch over the child of his former friend who broke the galaxy to hopefully one day fix it. And that's a lot of stress.
You know who broke
I'm
the
sure
galaxy?
that's a lot of
show.
stress, but I don't.
In Rebels,
I don't wanna
I don't
see
know if
it.
this is going to matter, but in Rebels he eventually has to fight Darth Maul
Right.
on Tatooine.
I don't
that's
watch that
probably
show,
the
but
only thing
I
he
saw
did.
that fight, and that was a very nicely done little samurai fight. I thought.
It was a nice scene, but the fight itself was incredibly anticlimactic. But
I
that's a
Emery-
different thing.
Emery, who broke the universe?
It was totally Palpatine, Like, Palpatine did all that shit. Like, Vader, yeah, of course he was instrumental, especially after Palpatine had already seized control of everything, but, like...
But if Palpatine hadn't been there, none of that stuff would have happened.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
the real
Same time, though,
workhorse.
those two needed each other. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, Palpatine could not have executed his plan to fruition without Anakin.
Yeah.
He couldn't
Yeah,
have done it.
That's probably
He
true.
tried.
Yeah.
That's what he tried multiple times. He tried with Darth Maul. He
Yeah.
tried with Asajj Ventress. He tried with Count Dooku.
Well,
He failed
no,
every
because you
time.
know what? Here's the thing. Once Darth Maul ended, you saw at the end he was like, "Oh, Anakin, you saved everybody. Blah blah blah. I'm gonna watch your career with great interest." He had his eye on Anakin from that point on. He knew exactly what he was gonna do.
Well,
It
there were
He
lines.
took a really long roundabout, too many year way to get there.
Yeah, there was initially a scene that I don't know if it was filmed, but it was in the script where Palpatine reveals that basically he's Anakin's dad, that he manipulated the midichlorians to create Anakin.
Yeah, he and Plagueis did that together, which is
Yeah.
why it really would have made sense if Plagueis was Snoke.
Yeah.
He's talking about
I
your
would-
bloodline is so significant and blah blah blah.
I
You know
totally
what-
would have bought Plagueis.
You know what these two movies remind me of? It reminds me of, there's some games that you could play sometimes where, like, you and a friend are, like, sitting there and you take turns, like, telling a story. You know what I mean? Like, maybe one word at a time or something like that.
Mad
or,
Libs?
you pass off the story,
Round robin
with a
and stuff.
sentence.
No, you know what this
And
Star
it's
Wars
like
movies remind me
that,
of?
except
Telephone.
the two people telling the story are fucking, like, on different pages about what they want the story to be. So they're just ignoring, the setup that the other person's saying, and, like, it just ends up being shitty all around.
I think it's
They
more
just-
like the game Telephone, where you tell someone the story, they tell it to somebody else, and they keep repeating it, and it goes all the way around to the end. And what the last person says has absolutely nothing to do with what the first person was saying.
yeah.
The thing the last person says just ends up being the word porg.
So, okay,
You are
that
bitter
reminds me.
about that.
Obviously, Aaron's biggest issue with this film was the porgs. I want to talk about mine, and I can't believe no one else has mentioned it yet. The entire subplot of Finn
Yeah.
and I think it was Rose just
Yeah.
going to a weird casino planet. I was
Oh.
like, this is so dumb and so
Yeah,
not
no,
that-
was,
worth
I
a
was
shit.
gonna get to that, but I wanted to go.
I was waiting for us to get to that.
It's just so obviously bad. Do we even really need to talk about it?
No, we do. I want to analyze it because I
There's-
look at it and I think the point of it was basically to get those two characters to like each other and to get on the ship.
But-
Since that,
I-
they
even
did it
then-
in the longest.
But even if
But-
they did it, they didn't show Finn liking Rose. It was just Finn being Finn, and all of a sudden Rose is like, "I'm gonna stop you from being Finn," and then he's like, I like this girl.
Being
I-
Finn or being
We
dead?
have a million different
Finn.
reasons. We all agree it was
Whatever.
stupid.
Yeah.
In
But
Force
it-
Awakens, Finn was one of my. I liked that character, although what I've come to realize over the time is I like John Boyega's performance of that character. The character himself doesn't really work. And I thought it was interesting that I think the whole reason that whole subplot exists is because they introduced Finn in the last movie. He's supposed to be a main lead, and I don't think they have a clue what to do with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If he stays in a coma, if he never comes out of that coma, you cut that whole plot line. Nothing in this story changes. You just lose half an hour.
Actually, something big does change. They would have made it to that planet without the fucking First Order finding them.
Oh,
The fact that they went off and got that goddamn code breaker actually fucked him in the ass, because then he totally betrayed them. And that's the whole reason they even knew they were leaving.
That's why I thought it would be better if they found either a quick way onto the ship, if he had to do that. The only part of that whole plot line that I thought was good was when Benicio del Toro basically kind of convinces Finn, like, there is no good side, there is no bad side.
That I liked.
These guys
That
are
was
selling to
good.
everybody. And the reason that's significant is I will bet you that has something to do with the next movie.
I'm hoping you're right.
The lines between the two, like who is good and who is bad.
Yeah, they have to do that.
Unless JJ just
think
ignores everything Rian Johnson did, like Rian Johnson ignored everything JJ Abrams did.
I know, I'm aware of that, and but I think that was what he was hoping at least would be the next plot point. But so when you break it down, though, the only two things that really came of that was that point, and that we established that there's some kids out there who like the concept of being rebels. Like, that's it.
Yeah,
we got it. And they could have done that much faster and without that whole bullshit plot.
I will.
Really
can I talk about something that pissed me off?
Of course.
The Rebel Alliance decoder ring. What the hell was that?
What Chinese company is building those?
I think, Alden, you're literally correct. It's an old-timey radio show decoder ring. I think that's literally what it is.
Why did she need her? Let me have this secret ring to reveal who I am? Like, why would you carry that? We're looking for some rebels. Let me see your hands.
Well,
I'm wearing the decoder ring that gives us away.
It's a nice toy for kids to have. They can wear it to school, get the shit beat out of them, and they'll never wear it again.
Yeah, that was like, I want to sell this as a toy type of moment. Yeah.
I want to sell this as a toy. This is a movie that does lean pretty hard into the old trilogies being legends for a new generation, and people, wanting to make heroes out of all of it, and also, like the bombers at the beginning, they're really B-52 bombers, like really B-52 bombers. So to have such a clear callback to the literal radio serials of the 1930s and 40s, that made sense to me. That was okay. I had no problem with that. I also liked Rose, but to finish my thought on Finn, I thought it was interesting that they brought him back, and he ended up basically what they figured out for him to do was to become the sidekick for a new character.
I don't like Rose. As soon as I introduced her, I'm like, I don't like this character. And throughout the whole thing, I'm like, I do not like this character.
Oh wow!
At all.
I kind of liked, but then again, I liked Rogue. I always like seeing the grubby, non-force, non-big heroes.
I have no problem with that. It's just her as a character, she was unnecessary. She was completely unnecessary. They just added to her as one of those, let's throw something at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, no, that's what they did with the porgs. That's what they did with the porgs. They threw them at the wall and they actually did stick.
The porgs actually had more use, because there was a couple points where I did laugh at the porgs.
I never laughed at Rose. I'm sorry to hear that. Alden, my respect for you is now diminished.
I will somehow go to sleep tonight and be completely okay with that.
I'm fine with porgs too. I don't have any idea
just
why
to make him sad.
Hey, they already have one. Okay, I'll tell you real quick why I hate the porgs so much. They already have BB-8, who's supposed to be this cute sort of like thing for kids to watch in the movie, and they threw in yet another cute little thing. So my question is, in the next movie, they're going to have porgs, they're going to have BB-8, and they're going to have to add some other like. They should just add like a little pink blob that fucking runs around and is cute. Just make the whole movie about the little blobs that run around and are cute and have big eyes.
I'm gonna be honest.
I want to see
hope evil
Aaron Yanda's version of the Star Wars movie. I want him to write a movie.
We did. It's called Chad Vader.
His version of the universe goes to the cantina and stays there.
And then just drinks until he passes out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's about an hour of drinking,
and I just say, you'll be dead to everyone I see. That's all I do.
And just hear voices and noises in the background.
Getting back to the movie, I actually kind of want to defend Rose a little bit. I want to defend what I think their intention was, not necessarily their execution. the goal of her was to make Finn understand that you can't just, run away all the time. There's people out there that care. There's people out there that need our help and all that kind of stuff. But you can do that in a sentence. You know
Can
what I
I
mean?
point something out here?
Yeah.
Finn did absolutely nothing to help anybody out by doing what Rose told him.
Oh, I know.
He made everything
Finn, ultimately,
worse.
as you point
He
out,
should have
he
just
would've been
run
fine
away.
in a coma. Actually, I thought that at the end, when he was like going to suicide himself and like blow that thing up, that I actually wanted him to do it.
Yeah,
Because
I thought that was a good way out.
Oh shit,
Yeah.
he would have actually learned something. He would have had a point, and he would have helped, as opposed to nothing.
Well,
Like he didn't.
I liked.
Finn, I feel, is underutilized, and I feel like they overutilized Rose, who was a brand new character who felt like she didn't belong to me.
Yeah.
Rose to me felt like Johnson sat down and went, "Well, we've got a lot of nothing characters here. Right? We need to start kind of from scratch with a lot of this." I did like Rose. I liked Rose. I liked the performance. I liked the line she gave to explain why she saved him. It's sort of the thesis of the movie, I suppose, that you don't win by fighting the things you hate. You win by saving the things you love. So I thought that was a nice line. That was a very good Star Wars moment.
That's not how fighting works.
You know what's funny though is that remember what he was originally like when they first met. What was Finn trying to do?
Save Rey.
He was trying
Yeah.
to save fucking Rey, and then there was this weird miscommunication with him and Rose. It's almost like she was trying to teach him a lesson that he didn't need to learn.
She was supposed to be like the conscience of a man who had already developed a conscience in the last movie.
Yeah.
I know.
We don't need to see that restructured again.
What was it? The person in the movie who needed to hear that speech, of course, was Dameron Poe.
Absolutely.
Poe was
we
another
talk
character
about
who I
him
felt
now?
like
Yeah.
was underutilized.
Dameron Poe. I'll give you this much. Dameron Poe is
You mean
now.
Poe Dameron?
Yeah,
Whatever.
I always
He's
get
using
that
the
wrong.
Japanese structure.
I'm just gonna say
Oh,
Poe
okay.
because I always get it wrong. So
Call him
Poe-san.
Pody Pie.
yeah, Pody Pie is now actually a character as opposed to The Force Awakens. So
Sure,
I'll
He
give
was
us
just
that.
like
character,
he wasn't
but
even
he didn't-
supposed to be a character.
No, he was supposed to-
get
yeah.
He was
killed.
supposed to die in the opening scenes there in
Yeah.
Force Awakens.
To bring up, and I know Aaron loves these guys, to bring up Red Letter Media, in Force Awakens, Poe completely fails to describe this character without telling us what they do for a job test. He's a pilot. There's nothing else to him but he's a pilot, and he has BPA.
He's the best pilot in the fleet.
In this movie, they expand on his character a lot by saying not only is he a pilot, but he's
But he's
also
an
a
asshole.
pilot that is going to make the exact wrong decision at every turn.
He is
Like, at the
incredibly
point when they're
destructive.
sitting there going after the cannon, he's like, no, we need to retreat now. And you're like, wait, no, you need to go deal with that thing. Or the point where, that was the other thing. There seemed to be like a lack of urgency about the things that needed to be dealt with when they needed to be dealt with.
Yeah.
For example, at that fight with the cannon, when she was like, oh, I needed to save you or whatever. And you're like, no, you need to deal with that fucking cannon who just, oh, never mind, it blew a hole in the wall.
Yeah. Like
Hey, we need to get a code breaker. Oh, we're in prison now.
every
Okay.
decision
That was-
Poe made resulted in the death of many,
Yeah.
many people. Every decision.
That's okay. Leia was okay
Every
with him at the
decision
end.
everybody made resulted in the death of many, many
Yeah.
people.
Oh, you know what? One of the biggest possible problems too was the fact that the new admiral decided, for no reason whatsoever, to keep her plan a secret.
Yeah,
That was exactly
I
what
was
I was going to say.
Yeah.
going to say
that
the
I
exact
did not
same
get.
thing. Was she?
Yeah.
I mean,
Listen, this is Ellie Sattler we're talking about of Jurassic Park. She did not do a good job of keeping anyone alive on that
Yeah.
island.
Now, look,
Do
I-
you think she learned anything in space?
I confess that whole part of the plot did feel like Battlestar Galactica. Why would she not? Did she think there were, spies or Cylons on her crew? There's no reason not to tell people, yes, we actually do have a plan. We just need to get this far and we're out. That would have helped a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I would have gone, Poe would have
The
gone,
problem
oh,
is-
what you're doing makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey,
Then
let's do
the
that.
problem is, then you have a movie where there's no tension.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. And I agree.
the
I agree.
tension
Logically,
was
she should have done
stupid.
that.
It was manufactured tension.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
it
agree
was
completely.
not.
I could agree completely. And that's when you know you have a problem.
yeah.
That's why they're like, let's focus on the stupid casino planet, which is even dumber.
Yeah.
So why did critics like this movie?
I have discovered something about critics. They have no idea what the common person actually likes.
Here,
No,
They
they,
just sit there
don't.
and
But
go,
that's not really
I-
their job as a critic. I don't think they're
Here-
just more like into films
Here-
and what.
But
But I don't
it
get why
doesn't-
they liked it so much.
here's why
They don't know Star Wars.
here's why I ultimately ended up liking it. I started out thinking, oh, this is literally following Empire Strikes Back beat for beat, blah 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 blah. But then it pushed past that. It pushed past Empire Strikes Back. It pushed past Return of the Jedi. It finally pushed back all of that to the point where, like, J.J. Abrams can't just do a redux of Return of the Jedi next time because they've done it. It's sort of like it's Johnson basically forcing the next guy in line to take this to the next step of, no, we're not going to redeem this villain. And there's no way they're redeeming Kylo Ren now. I mean, they've gone to the far extreme.
You know what? This is how I think this movie felt like to me. Like, you ever go on a road trip, and as you're going on the road trip, yeah, you enjoy most of the trip, but occasionally stuff happens, like the tire, you get a flat tire, or the battery dies, or you kind of get lost. And then at the end of the trip, instead of in Orlando where you were aiming, you wound up in Miami. And you're like, well, I like Miami, but that's not where I wanted to go. And that's what this movie felt like to me. Like, I enjoyed the journey, but I'm not necessarily happy with the destination or the potholes we hit along the way.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat where, you know, at the end, I just like John said, like, I thought we were getting into the Empire remake, and then we were starting to get into the Jedi remake, and so there's a lot of holes, and there are certain plot lines, like the casino, and the whole, like, the ship is too slow and they can't catch each other, so they'll chase each other for 6 hours thing. I'm like, why don't you send a fleet of TIE fighters? Why don't you do that shit? Whatever. All that stuff kind of bothered me, but at the same time, this movie did entertain me. I was never bored, other than the Casino Planet, and I was challenged. I was challenged to think about my own understanding of that universe, where it could go. I was even surprised at things, despite spoiler attempts by other people. There were still things I was like, oh shit, oh okay, didn't see that. And that wasn't excited me. But that was a first viewing. If I go on and watch this more, I may come away with a different review of it.
I feel like if I watch it more, I will hate it. That is how I feel. Like, I like it now, but if I have to take the trip again, I'm not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. I would say that the one of our main critiques of The Force Awakens was, it's exactly like New Hope. It's exactly like Star Wars. But this movie wasn't. So I don't know. A lot of hardcore Star Wars fans are really pissed off about it. But they were pissed off at Force Awakens, too, because it was too much like A New Hope. So it's like, you can't really win with Star Wars fans. They're always going to want the original Star Wars experience that they had, whenever that may have been, and they'll never be able to have that. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Just take their $1 billion and be happy with that.
Right.
I agree that you can't recreate the magic, but I think that the defense that a lot of people are giving this movie, saying that Rian Johnson wanted to, turn everything upside down, do like, Kylo Ren's going to turn to the good side. Oh, wait, no, he's not. Oh, Rey's going to turn to the bad side. Oh, just kidding, she's not. Like, the idea is that it's supposed to be like, throw out all the old and just bring on the new. That's the defense they're giving. But I think that really, when it comes down to it, a lot of the choices that were made were just plain bad storytelling. And you can make a good movie that doesn't follow exactly what the old Star Wars movies did, that, takes things to new levels, but that doesn't completely just shit on a fucking character's backstory, that doesn't make all sorts of massive, like...
You say, turn the story upside down, but did it really? I mean, it really just took the last two of the old trilogy and put them in one movie and just kind of rearrange the order of things.
It's like I was saying with shared universe writers. A lot of these choices were like, so what if we took this situation that people know about, but then we went in that direction with it? It would be zig instead of zag.
But we've seen that zig before in other movies, so it's like, that's not really a surprise zig. I mean, yeah, I was expecting it to zag, but I'm not really surprised by the zig either.
And it's true, because at the end, kind of what you're saying, is at the end, we're left with Kylo Ren's still the bad guy, Rey is still the Mary Sue fucking good guy, and Luke had a moment of weakness, but he redeemed himself at the end, so we're back at square one again.
Like, when he was a character, like Anakin, they always made him a Mary Sue, and they explained why he was a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Sort of. They didn't give
sort
this
of.
great
He was the chosen one, so you assume, okay, he's going to be way more powerful than anybody else. Luke struggled
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Like, he got his butt kicked over and over again, and even in the final fight. Yeah, he beat Vader, but then he still got his butt kicked.
Yeah.
Like, it's not... Rey is just, I'm going to be amazing all the time. I'm never going to struggle, and there's no...
Yeah,
The
this
conflict
movie does
around her,
not.
it feels like she could just walk through it, and okay, I'll be fine. She's got plot armor. Way
Yeah.
too much plot
Yeah.
armor.
Oh,
I did like the fact that they delved into some of her insecurities in this one, but really this movie does nothing to remedy the complaints
But
that
her
she's a Mary
insecurity
Sue.
are, I have no parents. Great.
Yeah.
Luke had no parents. Anakin had no parents. If you look at Han's backstory, he has no parents.
Anakin
Leia's
had a
parents
mother.
are
What
dead.
you talking about?
She's dead. She has no parents.
She died, and she was a motivator.
Yeah. Okay.
You're saying
well,
she had a parent.
he had a parent. My bad. Okay. And then got taken away from his mother for 10 years and then watched her die when he came back.
Yeah.
You know, that would have been better in Phantom Menace if
Yeah,
rather than
they
going
should have
willingly,
started-
he had been taken away, because
What-
then he would have learned to hate the Jedi.
What they should have done in the first movie is started Anakin as an adult.
He should
And then
teenager.
She died in that movie. She died
Yeah.
there, and that would have been a motivation for all his anger. Especially when to the council and they're like, "Oh, you're scared, afraid, and angry." Well, yeah,
If
my
we-
mom just died. Made sense.
If we go down the prequel route,
Yeah.
we'll never stop.
Sorry, yeah, but anyway.
Going back to this though. Speaking of her, I didn't notice this in the theater, but somebody told me this, so I have to see it again to confirm it. But so apparently, if you look in the shot where Rey is leaving and she's in the Millennium Falcon, you can actually see that she stole the Jedi books before they burned the tree down.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
So you saw that.
Yep.
So they did do that.
Yep.
Okay,
She's
that's
got him in a
interesting.
drawer.
Oh yeah, I did. I remember that now. Yes.
Which
So,
maybe why
I kinda
Yoda died as he lived, lying his ass off. Yeah,
Yeah,
burn the
fucking
tree.
people.
Yeah,
Well, he basically said they don't matter.
it don't
The books
matter.
Don't matter.
It's a lot
But
easier
he
to
also
say
said
that
it
and set him
knowing
on
they weren't
fire.
in there.
Yeah, yeah, sure, burn that tree. Yeah, you go right ahead. And
What were you going to say?
well,
Henry?
I was going to say, I think it's about time we start wrapping things up. So
Yeah.
I want to say some positive stuff because I've
Okay.
mainly just been saying negative stuff. And there were definitely a lot of things I liked. I actually really, really liked pretty much everything that had to do with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
I think that his character development, was on point for what I would expect for somebody who suffered that much and for somebody who, basically saw everything that they worked so hard, to accomplish be essentially pointless.
He also, I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just backing you up on this. He would also have massive guilt. If you think
Yeah.
about it, he has killed more people than anyone who has ever lived.
Yeah, exactly. Super guilty guy, super powerful guy, and then he tries, to get a little bit of hope left in the galaxy by training, apprentices, and he kind of fucks up with that. I mean, he's clearly a guy who struggled with anger his entire life. So I think what they did with him was actually really good, and I see a lot of people on the internet complaining about it, and I'm just
I've heard some people
I-
describe this
I
movie
have-
as a character assassination of him, and I don't.
Yeah,
I
and
have
that-
no
He said
issues.
that. He wasn't too happy with the way they took him, but he did it because he kind of had to do it.
Yeah,
So he himself, the actor, was not happy with it.
I like the direction they were going. The resolution to that whole thing, I don't like how it ended.
yeah.
Like with him dying. I think
Yeah.
he should have stayed alive, at least into 9, to start training her, and it would have made sense when she comes back, because it would have made a difference, especially from Empire Strikes Back, where Luke left and didn't continue his training. Where if instead,
Yeah, but
they
Rey-
stayed together.
Ray doesn't need training. We've established that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm,
she's
I'm
true.
kind of betting you here that was more of a Disney corporate decision, because they probably don't want to keep paying Mark Hamill the kind of money they had to pay him to do these 2 movies. And they kind of want to set up, like, we want to use the old characters to make you like the new ones, and then shift you away so that you like the new ones, the cheaper ones that can stay and do more adventures. Because, like, especially after Carrie Fisher died, there's no rules. Like, any of these guys can go at any time.
Yeah.
Well, that was another point I also made in the last podcast. All these actors are old. So they don't want to worry about, oh crap, he just died. What do I do now? Which just happened when, oh crap, she just died. What do we do now?
Yeah, and they still don't. They might know what they're gonna do. Obviously, we don't, because
Mark
that movie
Hamill's gonna
ends
have to-
with, like, she's gonna be a central character to the next one, which
Yeah.
is not a good place to end that.
Well, that's what I mean. After she died, they should have been like, shit, we need to go back and fix this.
Yeah,
Like-
but at the same time, obviously the blow her out the airlock scene was the perfect place to do that. But then you basically are forced to try and reshoot all of the stuff that she was in after it, and you lose all the emotional connection. Plus, you lose a ton of footage that she had shot.
To be
that
fair,
people
you could have just
we're gonna wanna see.
reshot it
To be
and
honest,
made her a Force ghost the whole time.
what was weird to me was having her get
That
blown
would have
up
been
the
weird
airlock.
to take her from like, hey, she never used the Force other than the occasional like I noticed something to now she's flying around and she's a Force ghost. Like with no training, that's impressive.
Well, she could have, instead of being like full ghost, she could have been like Obi-Wan in Force Awakens, the voice in the back of the head.
We don't know that Leia's had no Force training. She's Luke's brother. There were decades
Luke's
that went
brother?
in there.
True.
But
She's Luke's brother?
That's probably in
Luke's-
comics somewhere, but I don't know.
Yeah,
offhand.
but what I found weird is that her plot line plays as if she had died during filming, and they needed to replace her with Ellie Sadler for most of the runtime. Like she could have been the
Dead.
she
dead.
should have been that role.
Yeah,
And
she
that's-
should have been
in
that role.
hindsight, In hindsight, that's probably what they would have done.
If they'd known this
but
was her
she
last
dead, so
shot.
they didn't have. They had no ability to film that.
Yeah.
Unless they had used like a bunch of
they had already
CGI and stunt doubles.
Oh, I see
and
what you
all that
mean.
kind of shit.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, I
But then
I
you
understand
miss
why
all that stuff
yeah.
with her on like Hoth 2.0.
Yeah.
talking to Luke.
It
That
was
was
not
the
Hoth
only scene they've ever
2.0.
had together
That was
since
salt,
the original
not
trilogy.
snow.
So overall, the critics gave this movie on Rotten Tomatoes a 93% positive rating, and the fans right now are at 57%.
Although I'm
And-
hearing a lot of those downvotes came in days before anyone saw the movie, so
That wouldn't surprise
yeah.
me, but I still think that there is a lot of fan hatred towards the movie, and the critics don't have that same hatred, and they like the risks that the movie took and where it took the story and the things that the movie did. And I think for hardcore fans like us, some of the things they did are a little hard to swallow, and some of them don't make any fucking sense, and some of them are cute little big-eyed motherfucking stupid creatures that are pointless and suck and are for kids. But
Aaron, is this
overall,
because the porgs have tiny little useless legs?
everything about them is useless. I just want to stab the fuck out of them, and I wanted Chewie to devour all of them instantly.
So
But-
does anyone else?
But overall, I'm just trying to lead to something here. Overall, I liked the film,
Okay,
and that's
so
my
let's
final
go
word.
around.
So, but go to Alden last, because we all have to
I
weigh
agree.
in, and
Alden
then
goes last.
he has to
Alden goes-
decide.
all
Oh,
right,
yeah, that's
Aaron?
right.
Aaron has said his final piece. Emery, do you consider yourself having said your final piece?
Only thing left I want to mention is Phasma.
Oh yeah,
Oh God.
Oh, we gotta talk about that.
What the
we have
fuck?
to talk about that.
I thought you wanted to talk about positive things.
What the
Phasma
actual
is like
fuck?
if Boba Fett was just a bounty hunter who got a couple lines in an initial lineup, and then they just pretended
I feel
he
like
was a big
she's
guy.
more incompetent than Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Boba
And
Fett
Boba Fett
caught
was pretty
Boba
incompetent
Fett
at the
caught
end.
Han Solo. He did
Yeah.
something. She is literally a variant action figure. That's what she
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Like I think
I
she
think
was
she's
in
gonna
a,
come back again. I feel like she's gonna
I
come
would
back
I would
again.
say there's no possible way she could come back from that, except that the last time we saw her, she had just been secretly hidden in a trash compactor on an exploding planet. And
Did you hear the story from Ryan Johnson about that? He was
No.
like, he was gonna put a line in there about how she survived for 3 days in the trash compactor, and then after about 2 hours of discussing this, he realized what the problem with that
But no, it was so ridiculous for her to come back from the last one. If she came back in the next movie, scarred from getting blown up again, I would start to turn around on her. Like if she
Maybe.
just wouldn't die.
What is there to turn around on?
Just
She hasn't done anything.
she would need to do something.
I
the
know,
only thing she's
I
done
know.
is lost in a fucking one-on-one fight with a goddamn stormtrooper. That's all she's done.
They want her to be Boba Fett. She's Greedo.
Yeah.
With more of a role.
So, Emery, final thought.
I gotta say that I just didn't like it. You know, that's.
Are you going to see it again?
Yes, I'm gonna see it again in the hopes that it improves my feelings towards it.
Sweet. Adam?
I kind of said the majority of my final conclusions, but I will ultimately say I came away with it. I like this movie. But I do need to rewatch it and kind of make sure that I like it. I mean, let's put it this way. If you had to rank all the Star Wars movies, this would be better than any of the prequels. And I have to say currently, I liked it better than Force Awakens. And I might put it at like Rogue One territory. Maybe even possibly around Return of the Jedi, but that I need to watch again to be sure about that one. So I might potentially rank this as my third or fourth favorite Star Wars movie, which sounds pretty high, but it's kind of not, if that makes any sense. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, because the ones that are higher than it are just like way higher.
Yeah, they're like, Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope and potentially
sort of like saying Alien
8
Prometheus is the third best Alien movie.
I will say this. I will say this. This might be the best Star Wars movie that Disney has made so far.
Rogue One for me, by definitely.
I
still
do
think
love Rogue
One.
One.
Is infinitely better.
But I've trust me, I've watched Rogue One many times, and there's parts of Rogue One I fucking love, but then there's certain aspects of it that are really hard to forgive. And this movie I've only seen once, so I'm not ready to digest it. My initial reaction might be partially based on the shock of certain things, but as I digest it more, it might sink below Rogue One. We'll see.
All right.
So, John, final?
I think there were structural problems, not just with this film, but with this trilogy that this film was kind of saddled with and tried to fix. I thought it had a lot of good moments. I liked the Finn Casino Planet plotline more than you guys did, although it's completely extraneous and there's nothing to be done about that. I ended up basically thinking if I ever watch The Force Awakens again, it will be as a trilogy so I can watch this again. So I liked it. It's I don't know. It's not one of the best ones ever. I don't really have an idea of where they're going with it anymore. And that J.J. Abrams is coming back for the third one. I'm not eager. I'm going to be wait and see for the next one as well. But all in all, I liked it. I came away pretty pleased. Although I will say, while Phasma was dying, that whole thing, I was thinking, oh boy, I'm about ready to go home. And then I remembered that whole crate battle scene from the previews. And like, oh god, there's another act they haven't gotten to yet.
Don't worry, the tiny camels are going to save Phasma.
I know we're in the final thoughts part, but you made me think of something like one. I now see Force Awakens as like a preamble to this movie and not even its own film anymore. And you're right. For the first time, I have absolutely no idea where they're supposed to go with this.
Yeah.
Like, and the other thing that is weird is this is the first time we've had Star Wars movies that are back to back, like immediate, like story wise. Like they're bailing on the planet right after they blew up the other one. Like they're leaving.
And I think this is the first Star Wars movie that takes place entirely within the course of a day or a couple days, right?
It's like 18 hours or something like that.
Yeah, it's a short amount of time.
Which
Actually,
makes no sense because Rey was on that planet for a couple days.
Well, days there are only 6 hours long.
You know what
If
you're saying,
you
Adam,
read
though, makes a lot
the
of...
extended universe, you'll discover
Well,
that.
if it's anything like
Time
Empire, time is different on different planets.
Yeah.
So, like, in Empire, even though they were only on Cloud City for a couple of days, Luke was basically on Dagobah for, like, 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
But that's because of how time apparently works differently for plot purposes.
Oh, I thought the explanation was
it's the
just
Force,
like that.
but really it was just a plot hole. And I think it kind of works the same way here.
I thought the sort of the explanation for that was that the Millennium Falcon spent like weeks and weeks evading the Empire out in the asteroid fields in space and that sort of thing.
That certainly could be the case as well.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Adam,
Aaron, you were talking?
Yeah, what you were saying about the, not knowing where it's going, I think actually that's partially why, for me, like, I felt my, like, fanaticism sort of dull a little bit about the movies, because, like, we found out we've got the end to Luke in this movie, we've got a lot of things that are sort of wrapped up from all the other movies, and so now we don't really know where it's going to go, and actually, I mean, like, so maybe I will start looking forward to the next movie because I'm going to be like, where are they going to take this? Like, where are they going to go next?
Now that you mention it, that's interesting because I have one thing I didn't like. I mean, I mentioned many times I have issues with Force Awakens, but coming away from it, and it was supposed to do this to you, we were all sitting here speculating, like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? Well, who's this? What's that? At the end of this movie, we're more like, well, what the fuck are you going to do next? Like,
it's wide open. Like, you're not going to see like 70 different internet videos are just like, here's what's going to happen with Snoke, or here's who Snoke is, or whatever.
My point is the excitement is different. Instead of us all talking about these things we are eager to see, we're more like, well, all right, sure. Like, I guess they're going to do something. Well, it's a different vibe.
It did leave us with one thing, because if you think back to what was the very last scene in the movie? It was a couple of kids literally playing with Star Wars toys.
Yeah, there was that.
So that, that's what we have to look
Are
forward
they
to.
going to tell the ninth movie through Star Wars action figures playing on the screen?
Yeah, the guys who do Robot Chicken are going to make it.
Seth
I'd just
Green,
say
and I
the
forgot
point
the
of
other
this
guy's name.
movie, ultimately, is to get kids to play with Star Wars toys.
Well, that's pretty much always been the
I got a
case.
spoiler,
but we're
man.
just
That's how
more
all of them
sensitive
are.
to it.
Yeah, well, this one was pretty goddamn heavy-handed with that at the end.
Yes, it
All right.
was. Oh,
All right.
porgs.
So everybody's done their final thoughts except Alden, right? So it's Alden's
Alden?
turn.
It is me. So
Are you-
here's my issue with the movie right now, and this trilogy as it goes on. There's no George Lucas overseeing this. And before I say, George Lucas is whatever, doesn't feel like there's a person overhead saying, okay, this is the general direction in which I want to go. It seems like each movie is each person's attempt to tell a story, and the next person picks up the story from there and tells their story. And I think that causes a lot of problems plot-wise, and it makes things very difficult to follow.
I
That
believe
be-
to a large
I
degree
agree.
what you're saying is literally true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Kathleen Kennedy is supposed to be in that role, but I don't think she's really up to that task.
Right. And that's what I mean. There's nobody who sits there and says, okay, gets the directors and says, all right, let's sit in a room and let's plot the story out. It's just one person. Here's the range. You write a story. We'll tell you if it's good or not. Go.
Yeah, and that's
And-
why you have those inconsistencies from now 7 to 8, where there's whole plot lines that are dropped or just immediately resolved because they didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Right. That being said, with this movie, I enjoyed the journey, most of it. I'm not sure I'm happy with the destination. And I still am kind of on the fence as to whether or not I like this movie. I feel very neutral about this movie
But
and
we
where
Are
it
you going to
went.
see it again?
We can't end it like that, though. The whole point of this was to convince you one way or the
And
other.
you guys
Hung jury.
made very persuasive arguments on both sides that still made me sit in the middle.
All right, well, we're going to have
Well, I
to
wanna
meet
say-
again in another year to resolve this.
I
think.
feel like if I watch it again, however, I will hate it.
Well, we won't be meeting in a year because they're not doing another movie next year. They're doing Han Solo, and they're doing that in 5 months from now.
That's in 5
Well,
months.
we're meeting in 5 months
That's in
then.
May. Yeah. It comes
What
out-
the
yeah.
hell?
Like, this movie will just be coming out on Blu-ray.
I don't
and
know
the
how I
Han
feel
Solo
about
movie.
Richie Cunningham
I
directing Star Wars.
I have basically no enthusiasm for.
I know
this one.
that one's gonna be bad.
We're
That
gonna
one's
we're gonna
be
see
really
Chewie
bad.
pull off a stormtrooper's arm. We're gonna see him win the Millennium Falcon. You can tell the pieces that they're all gonna
Yeah,
put together.
it's just a
in
bunch
there.
of quotes from A New Hope that we're gonna see play out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Chewie will befriend some sort of small chicken penguin, and it'll be really cute. Maybe it'll be great.
The Han Solo movie aside, we won't be having another real Star Wars movie until about this time 2 years from now, in 2019.
Well, the world
so
will
I-
end by then, so
Yeah,
we'll never know.
definitely. But what I gotta say is, I am worried about that film because they picked J.J. Abrams. J.J. has always been good at setting up things he has no plans for. He is not good at resolutions.
He's not
especially
good
other
at
people's
resolutions.
work.
They need to call up Josh Whedon, get him over here, say, here you go, fix this.
I think the only reason they picked Abrams is because at that point he was the only Star Wars director where everything went smoothly.
Yeah.
be.
At least in the Disney era. And
Watch
I think
midway
that's why
through
they picked
filming.
him.
Mark Hamill dies, and they're like, oh shit, we have to rewrite this whole thing.
So I kind of wish they weren't giving it to him, but I gotta be honest, I don't know who they would give it to. I'm worried about what that movie's gonna be because I get the feeling whatever it is, the ending is going to suck.
Well, it depends on what they're doing with it. Like, are they going to turn this lead into another trilogy immediately?
Yes. Well, we know there's another trilogy coming from Ryan.
We know,
Johnson.
but we don't know.
We know there's 2 other trilogies coming.
but we
two
don't
other
know the
tri-
timeline.
Right.
Yeah,
I,
there's
I
the
think
Ryan Johnson trilogy that could be in the Old Republic, and then there's also the 10, 11, 12 trilogy.
oh,
Right,
God.
which we
So,
don't.
that-
But we don't know
yeah.
where it's going to lead off. Like, it could be wind up taking place 20 years after the
Yeah.
end of Episode 9. It could wind up being 6 months. We
Every
don't
time,
know.
every time
And that being
Lucas,
said,
yeah,
we
Sorry.
don't know how long, like how he's going to end it leading into those. This could
I'm
be a
going to
completely
make a
different
very
story.
bold. I'm going to make a very bold prediction 2 years out that Kylo Ren either survives or has some sort of offspring, or there's a child of Luke, there's a child of Leia that nobody knew about, something like that. Kathleen Kennedy's very on the record that the main movies have to always be about the Skywalkers. If they've already got a plan of some kind for a 10, 11, 12, one of them has to be around.
Here's where I'm gonna make my own prediction.
Now, that's a thing.
Rey is related to the Skywalkers.
Very possible. Or Kylo ends up having a son or something. But
Or
it's going to happen.
I don't want to say this because I don't like this idea. Kylo and Rey wind up together. I don't like this idea. It disgusts me, and I don't like that idea, how that's going to resolve. But I think it's a big possibility.
The math almost points in that direction. The sort of character math seems to be demanding.
It seems like they could end up being a couple.
Yeah.
But I'll also bet you this. I'll bet you that Daisy Ridley has nothing to do with those movies. Did you hear what she said about not wanting to do them after?
I've heard something about that. Yeah,
She said that in kind of a hot mic moment. So she's obviously not tied to those yet, and she doesn't seem to have interest in doing them. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Blame her because a lot of these actors who get in the Star Wars kind of get shoehorned into these roles and then can never get out of them ever again.
Only Harrison Ford escaped it.
Harrison Ford,
Ewan
McGregor, and Liam Neeson are the only, and Samuel J. But Sammy J's in it.
Only guys who came in with a long and established career beforehand.
With the exception of Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford's the exception.
Right. Yeah. And Hamill only got out because of his years of voice acting.
And that's basic. But even then, for not many people outside of people who watch cartoons and things like that know that Mark Hamill has this big voice acting career. If you ask the average person, they're like, "What was Mark Hamill doing for the last 30 years?"
He was playing the Joker?
Yeah, I think he's probably got as many, if not more, fans of him as the Joker as he does as Luke Skywalker these days.
He's also a big stage actor, too. So
is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
But the only other actors who made it out are the ones that you didn't really even know were in Star Wars, like Rose Byrne, comedic, actress. She was in Attack of the Clones as like a fucking extra. You know what I mean? Like those are the only other ones that make it out.
Oh, what was her? Keira Knightley was one of...
Keira Knightley is the little body double, whatever. But again, you don't even know that's her. She's supposed to be a body double.
Yeah.
But then again, once again, those, like Natalie Portman, already had a career. Ewan McGregor had a career. Liam Neeson, Sammy J.
Those are different because they went into it with a career.
Yeah.
So,
but
anyway.
Yeah.
I would like to thank John and Alden for joining us on this podcast.
Me too.
Yay!
I want to thank all the Patreon backers who are supporting us now. And of course, all the ones who got involved in this show. So, of course, shout-outs to, again, Alden, John, Hero, Rob, Michael, Ben, Matthew, Cheesemaster, Daniel, Nick, Eric, and Devin. Thank you to all of you, especially the two of you that are actually sitting right here with us.
Thank you for your separate stances on neutrality.
Yeah, and we'd like to wish all of you guys a Merry Christmas if you're into that kind of thing. Have a good
Happy
holiday.
son.
And if you are listening to this, you are a patron, and that means you are really doing concrete good for these guys in an era when advertising-based entertainment is dying. So, you're really making a difference, just so you know.
You really, really are.
That's right. You're preventing the porgs from destroying the
And guys, this is going to be the last podcast of 2017.
It is.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we've got lots of more videos for you coming out before the end of this year. So keep an eye out for all of those. How's that Fallout coming, Emery? It's going to be really good, right?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be top-notch. Top quality.
There's something coming up in 7 days I'm looking forward to.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. I think we might get to that in this episode. Yep. Ooh. I think that's going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, all right. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.